props and costumes. We want it to work. Yeah. And so we've been proposing like adding tangible entertainment design to what they have already to do sets and props and lighting.
It's something that they just show the difference between when it's done well, like in Mandalorian, and when it's done bad, like in Thor Love and Thunder. Like the first opening scene in Thor Love and Thunder, like, oh, they used the volume really badly.
All right. Ready to go?
Oh, well, no. Are you going to record or am I going to record?
So I'm currently recording on OBS. Okay. We're getting most of our stuff from there instead of the owl this time. So I'm hopeful the audio will be a little bit better. We can rotate the table when the speaker starts going.
Yeah, everybody's just watching me eat pizza. That's what we're doing.
There's nothing wrong with that.
So you can walk behind it.
Rock and roll. Okay. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, come on up. All right, volume down on the games. Volume down on the games. If you need a chair in the back, there's a stack of chairs right on the side. Where's that audio? Is that coming from me? We got like a nice ambient audio. Oh, that is me. Oh. That was kind of nice. Okay. Everyone, we'll give you a few moments to grab the chairs. Oh, are we going to run out of chairs? Okay, wait a second. Give me 60 seconds.
You need a hand?
Okay, more chairs over here. The students all go home, so you expect the crowd to be less. Our fabulous guests just bring the heat.
Mm-hmm.
It is a two-chair stack kind of night. Everyone, thank you so much for being here. It's so great to see you. It's great to connect with the local game dev community. This is the May edition of IGDA Ann Arbor. My name is Austin Yarger. I run this with Jeremy Bond and Corbin Reeves. And it's so great to see you. We have a really, really fantastic event tonight. We have two phenomenal industry veterans who've done some extremely cool stuff, some super cool indie stuff. How many of you have heard of a game series called Dino Run? Anyone? Anyone play that like back in the day?
Oh, hell yeah.
I played that. I was like, I think I was in like middle school when I played that. All right? So I'm getting nostalgic up here already. Have any of you heard from Nova Drift? Fantastic indie game. In fact, Wolverine Soft Studio right here recently did a case study on it, right? Phenomenal title. And the creators, right? Jeffrey Nielsen and Miles Tillman are here to talk about that indie life, okay? They're going to talk tonight about some different topics, but indie Steam marketing, very, very pragmatic stuff. It's going to be super exciting. And Jeffrey also has a show and tell segment. 10 minutes. He's going to talk to us about the final boss design of Nova Drew. So if you're a big fan of that game, this is going to be super cool for you. Okay? All right. Does anyone have any community announcements before we really get started? Any events coming up? Anything? Go for it, Jeremy.
Sorry. Hey, I'm Jeremy. Protospiel is coming up at the end of June, like June 28th to 30th, I believe. It's happening right here at Washtenaw Community College. If you're not familiar with it, Protospiel is a board game play testing mini conference. So it's 3 days long. You show up, I think, to register it's like $70 if you want to bring a game and have other designers test it with you. And it's like 10 or $20 if you just want to show up and play test people's games. In the past, if you signed up as a designer, you got a free ticket to bring a buddy to be a play tester. It's a really cool conference that started here in Michigan, and now there's a few of them throughout the states. So,
how many of you are really into board games?
Yeah.
Heck yeah. How many of you design, any board game designers in here? All right, a handful. Very good stuff. Very good stuff. So you'll want to check that out. Okay.
Also, I don't have the exact date on me right now, but I know that IndieCade has pushed back their deadline for submissions. So if you've got a game and it was almost ready, that's a great place that you can submit. IndieCade works super, super well for Plunder Panic out of Lansing, getting them a ton of visibility, and that's what got them the deals with Nintendo and Sony and Xbox and stuff. So,
don't just spend all your effort making a game, right? You got to get it out there. You got to show it off. Submit to these festivals. Very good idea, Peter.
What's IndieCade?
Oh, what's IndieCade? Back when it was created, IndieCade was called the Sundance of Independent Games. So the idea was to be a festival for independent games. I've been a chair of IndieCade for several years now, but we usually have about 800 or 900 games submitted every year. There is going to be an in-person festival again for the first time since like COVID, basically. So that's going to be really cool. We did in-person night games last year. I wasn't able to go, but I heard very good things. So yeah, and it's just a great place to get independent games seen and judged and get feedback and stuff.
Cool. Where's it located roughly?
It's based out of Los Angeles. I actually don't know where the in-person conference is going to be this year, but it's indiecade.com.
Thanks.
Yep.
Any other community announcements? Yes.
My studio is hiring for 2 contract positions for both a video editor and a web developer. Please come talk to me afterwards if you have either of those skill sets. We have some pretty specific requirements for both those jobs, but happy to talk to people or take recommendations.
And which studio is that?
Opti Games.
Opti Games. Very good. Any other community announcements? All right. So here's how the night tends to go. From 6 to 7, it was Indie Dev Lounge. You saw a lot of game devs here with their games set up, people walking around playing games. If you have your own game, please bring it here. Get feedback, right? Watch people play and improve your games in that way, okay? From 7 to 8, we do the community show and tell, the community Shark Tank, but a bit nicer than Shark Tank, okay?
Less bullshit, too.
So, yes, less bullshit, too. And so, if you ever want to show stuff off, or you just want to rant about something to the crowd for 5 minutes, you can sign up for one of those show and tell slots. 5 happen every single month, and that's what we're going to be doing in about 90 seconds, okay? Beginning at about 8:30, we're going to have our feature presentation, which is going to be absolutely fantastic. And that's going to be the night, okay? We'll do some networking at the very end. I'm not sure how much pizza we have back there in Pop, but you can grab stuff if you're hungry, if you want more, go for it. And otherwise, we're going to get started with our first remote show and teller, okay?
Hey, Austin, is there an after party?
There is usually an after party.
Yeah.
We tend to walk down and grab food at Frida Petito's down on Washington Street, not too far. And I always return back here afterwards, so you can probably leave your stuff here if you want to. Another quick thing, Corbin Reeves usually does our video and our technology stuff. He's not here. He's sick, sadly. I hope he feels better soon. You're stuck with me, okay? So apologies in advance for any sort of technical mishaps that are going to occur. Okay? Paul, are you there? Hello. I think he's there. Presenter Paul, hello.
Microphone's off.
Yeah, I'm going to unmute you. How do I unmute you? Like that. Okay, well, Paul will go next then. All right. I think next, let me see here really quickly. Okay, Alexander Burton. Are you here?
Yep.
All right, come on up, Alexander.
Still muted.
Yeah, I think Paul just chilling. Oh, he messaged me. Joining in 2 minutes, huh? Yeah.
That's what you think.
Yeah. Okay.
Move the ThinkPad.
Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Apologies. I don't think I have the rest of the stream.
Okay. What's your username?
Disco.
Disco. I don't see you here. Oh, here we go. Okay. All right, go ahead and stream. And you can go ahead and mute your mic as well. All right.
I have.
Okay.
So,
Okay. You've got 5 minutes. You ready?
hello everyone. I'm Alexander Burton. I am a student at USC out in Los Angeles, California, though I'm originally from Michigan, here back for the summer. And I'm here to show you a game that I've been working on along with a team of about 50 for the past year and a half, since January 2023, called The Veiled Ones. So what is The Veiled Ones? In essence, The Veiled Ones is a first-person 3D stealth horror game about a Muslim exorcist trying to save his son. In this game, you navigate the environment, evade the jinn, find hidden clues, and look into the jinn world, much akin to Alien Isolation, Resident Evil 7, or Amnesia. So let's go into some gameplay and background of this game. So, The Veiled Ones, our resident director of this game was born in Turkey, came to the United States for game development purposes, and she has wanted to always make a horror game about her culture. And that's what we have strived to do for in our game. I came onto the project around April of 2023 as the lead usability person. I did all the playtesting, analysis of playtestings to give solutions to design and whatnot, and to overall help polish and get this game up to speed. We finished up our primary development back in the start of May when we finished up for the USC Games class. And right now we're in the middle of optimization for an August release. So here you can see some gameplay that we have doctored, obviously, of our main core game loop of exploring the environment, looking at your notebook, getting clues and narrative research for how best to proceed in exercising your son. Okay, so yeah, we do have a trailer. One of the perks of going through USC is that our professors allowed us to have a marketing lead, so we fortunately have a trailer, and hopefully the sound works. Sound is not working. Perfect.
Did you share your screen or did you share...
I shared screen, but it should also share audio.
Screen almost never shares audio, sadly. You can share Chrome, the applications that sometimes works. So, application? Yep. Shall we...
You getting audio? No.
There we are. Yep, we got it.
Coming from a house where children known to live.
You must have angered them. Drove them too far this time. Just save us.
.90 seconds.
So yeah, this was a a very big undertaking. We have had audio people from the Berkeley Sound and Music College out in Boston. We've had people from Otis and Fullerton for art positions as well, and we are very excited to be releasing in August and showcasing this to the world. And I very much appreciate you all wishlisting on Steam. Please, we want those algorithms to bump us all up. We're all indie developers. We all need that, all that exposure that we need. But it's free. And there's also a bunch of other USC games that have been released. I know the Ware Cleaner is also, I don't know if you all have heard of that, but that's available on iOS and Steam right now. But other than that, I want to thank you all for taking the time out of your day to view our trailer and our gameplay footage.
Right.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Okay, 5 minutes for questions. Raise your hand.
What engine is it made in?
It's made in Unity with HDRP.
So I know the Amnesia was kind of built around the idea of the player not being able to fight back. Is it similar sort of style of gameplay?
Yes, we had a year and a half to develop this. We obviously overscoped in the beginning. We had a lot more survival horror elements planned, didn't come to fruition. So it's a lot closer to Amnesia in resource management of flashlights and navigating the environment without really fighting back as much.
Gotcha.
I see how like the theme is different than like, you know, a lot of the survival horror games that release. But like obviously I can't play it right now. So like how does it differ in like the design and like gameplay features from the games?
Yeah, so our looking glass is the main gimmick or mechanic of this game, where you're able to use it to look into the Jinn world, which has a different set of narrative objects, elements, and we made a unique shader to render everything, where you can just see the difference in how the Jinn and the enemies that you're going up against populate the world, and how they decorate the environment to make it their home versus a dilapidated old governor's house that you yourself see. And it's through that we're able to expand the narrative through like chalk drawings on the wall that you can't see in reality, in showcasing how these people have lived here both previously and with the Jinn present.
Also with the notebook, it reminded me a lot of Return of the Obra Dinn. Do you actually fill out the notebook, or is it?
Yes.
Oh, cool.
The notebook is diegetic. It's all in the place. Put a lot of work into making that thing 3D. Trust me, it was horrible. Don't recommend it. Don't make 3D notebooks. But throughout your playtime, when you're discovering new items and new notes, they'll be added in with new sketches. Our concept artist Kyle put in beautiful sketches for that notebook. And it was a lot of fun making that thing, even if it was stressful.
So USC Games added the sort of studios thing to help students release their games over the last several years. It seems like that's going really well. What's the student experience of that, and how does that work?
The student experience is honestly really great. I had a blast working on this game, and I've met some lifelong friends along with the process. And it's made working on this game a lot more pleasant through that environment, because we do get feedback and support from faculty in how best to advocate for our game. Like, we wouldn't have had a trailer or a marketing person if faculty didn't push for it. And like, even if some of the decisions feel like they're a bit contrarian or a bit pushy, overall everyone's working towards making a great game. And it's been a great experience to learn how best to incorporate feedback and to get support from people who, you know, you're working under at the end of the day. They act more like a publisher than as faculty, and I think that's a good thing.
Cool, thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm very curious why I shouldn't build 3D notebooks. And did you use the word diegetic?
Yes.
What does that mean?
Okay, so diegetic, it's a term to refer to something that is happening in the game world. So, like music coming out of a radio, that'd be diegetic music. But music that you hear as a character that doesn't exist in the world, like a Dark Souls boss theme, that isn't actually happening in the game world. It's just there for your enjoyment as a player. The notebook, in this sense, is something that is physically present within the game world that characters comment on and can interact with.
What made it so difficult to develop that notebook?
So this isn't my department. I'm not the engineer that primarily did this. That was Brooklyn. Brooklyn had a terrible time getting this thing to work. Crashes galore, build issues galore. It is the longest script in our game. It is awful. We changed the font once, and that broke the entire build. Like, you change the font size, it's just awful. Like, there's so many variables that go into making it, and also, we originally made it 2D and then elevated to 3D, and you have to, like, figure out how page turning works and how that clips into different objects and how that's layered on top of things, and then you also have this shader with the looking glass and how that affects things. It's a nightmare.
So if it was a more static notebook, it would have been vastly easier.
Yes.
But still 3D. And it didn't change throughout gameplay. It would have been vastly easier. Was that?
It would have been vastly easier, but
I see.
that is the best thing about student projects. You live and learn.
Yeah.
You get to learn what you should bite off and what you shouldn't bite off. But overall, it was a great experience to, like, get that thing in the game and, like, have people be impressed by it and say, like, wow, you did that. I couldn't do that. And it's like, yeah, maybe there's a reason why you shouldn't do it. But
Final question?
Yes, kind of bouncing off the last question. Is there any, like, gameplay reason for the notebook being 3D, or is it just, like, purely visual?
it's purely visual. We had it 2D working perfectly fine, and we decided we should make it 3D because it would look nicer. That's it. That's the only reason. We just wanted it to look nicer. And it does look great. So, it was great.
Okay, thank you very much, Alex. Okay, I think Paul Young is ready to go. He's telling me his microphone is suppressed, but I don't see that. So we might have to go to Joshua Marshall as we figure that out. You're not able to unmute yourself, Paul? We got any Discord experts? No?
I know that can happen if you don't have a microphone connected.
Oh, yeah. You might want to check your microphone, Paul. Hey, Paul, at any time, be thoughtful about it, but just do a 1, 2, 3 test, and we'll tell you if it works.
One suggestion, just turn off the microphone, unplug it, plug it back in, turn it back on. Sometimes that fixes things.
Yeah. Troubleshoot a little bit, Paul. We'll get back to you if we can, okay? All right, next up we have Joshua Marshall.
Can I get some volunteers that haven't played my game yet?
While they're coming up,
I mean, if
it's a different icon if you're muted by the admin, so he does not have the muted by the admin icon.
Are you in the live meeting, Josh?
not yet.
Okay, hop in when you have a chance.
1, 2, 3.
Hey, testing. Okay, Paul, you'll be next, all right? Here we are. Presenter. Okay, share your screen when you are ready.
You might want to share your application.
Okay, let me know when you're ready. We'll hit the clock. How many of you have not seen Josh's game? Oh, heck yeah. Look at that crowd, Josh.
I'm just going off your name.
You good at rhythm games?
Oh, yeah.
Well, too bad this isn't. While Josh sets up, what are you playing these days? What are you playing? Nova Drift. What are you playing?
Baldur's Gate 3.
Baldur's Gate 3.
Tekken.
Which Tekken?
Tekken 8.
Tekken 8. Awesome.
Path of Exile.
Path of Exile.
Animal.
Valheim. Helldivers 2.
Way too much Lego Star Wars.
Lego Star Wars. Let's go.
Destiny. Hades for me.
Destiny. Roller Coaster Tycoon,
just the
please.
first one. I might get 2 once I'm done with the first one.
It's just an early access.
Stardock's Political Machine.
It's really early.
Okay.
Do you have the early access?
Yes.
I like
Heavily modded Elden
if you like Hades.
Heavily modded Elden Ring. What mods?
That's what it kind of looks like. Yeah, it's more of the same in a good one.
Elden Ring Reforged.
Okay, Reforged.
Complete overhaul.
Makes the game harder, right?
Figure I might as well
just
finish the first one.
Gotcha. Okay, are we ready to go?
Yeah.
3, 2, 1. Yes? No?
Yeah. If you can. Oh, you can see it on. All right. So.
Go.
So my name is Josh Marshall. I'm the founder of Dream Open Games. This is Boogie Bashers. It's a silly party game about dancing in the spotlight and pushing other people out of it. If one of you guys can click offline and then join random room. Other players press start to join. And then you can pick a character and then a dance.
Oh, is it not streaming properly?
I'm gonna tap
Oh,
for
yeah.
just
Yeah, it's
a
frozen up there.
second to see. Oh right, of course.
I can plug into that one.
That works.
Get your network back.
Yeah, I unplugged the. I forgot I need network to stream.
Oh.
I got this janky antenna because my original network card doesn't really work well. But anyway, hopefully that pops up soon. We got.
Could you stop streaming and then reshare? Okay.
Josh, do you need another USB hub?
I got it.
Can you mute yourself as well?
I am muted. I'm not sure why it's double.
Don't worry.
Okay, I muted it, but that'll mute the audio.
Alright, well, anyway, hopefully stream can see. Alright, stream can see. So yeah, whenever you guys are ready,
Okay, go for it.
I'll have to explain how to do this. My most recent thing was redoing the UI so that it's intuitive. We can just get in the game without me saying anything.
Ready?
I think so. Ooh.
Alright,
What is happening?
so there's
What do we do?
no.
Go back to that menu.
Try going back in. Alright, somebody press B a bunch of times. Just press B until you go back.
Okay.
Oh.
Oh no.
Oh man, lab demos. You can't do anything?
No. Restart. Okay.
Oh, it crashed.
Did we win?
I was in the spotlight, so I'll take it. Alright, so instead of live, I'll just show the trailer.
We boogied too hard.
Alright, so this is the itch page. I'll just play the trailer real quick. But yeah, the goal here is to dance in the spotlights and pretend there's a lot of it. And there's some power-ups scattered around, like a speed up and a projectile you can shoot. Plays up to 5. So that's what it looks like in gameplay. I'll show some concept art.
Can you turn your volume down on your machine? There you go. Good.
That's what it was. So there's some concept art of what that stage should look like when it's all completely done. There's a nightclub stage as well. And then there's a stage modeled after Art Plaza in downtown Detroit. Most recently, I redid the menu. You guys were able to get into the game, great, so that's a win. But but that came with some bugs. And yeah, I just wanted to show it off. I also recently worked on the camera. We didn't really get to see that, but now the camera changes its angle a little bit if characters are near the edges, so you can see the arena a little bit better. I'll show that next time. But I was looking to get some feedback. I guess you guys couldn't see gameplay that well, but feel free to ask any questions.
Okay, 5 minutes for questions.
Right.
So
yeah, thanks for
thank you.
So
Be careful about the cables. Be careful about the cables.
Well, what is like other than what you mentioned? Is there anything else that is like minor or major things you've changed since
Yes.
last time?
So the spotlights, I've always been getting feedback that people have trouble seeing when they're dancing in the spotlight. So now when you're in the spotlight, it'll blink. I'll just play this again with low volume. When you're in the spotlight, it will actually blink to show you that you're dancing in it. There's also a really low, it's kind of small, but there is a score above people's heads now. I need to make that way bigger. But when you actually do score, it'll like play an animation to show you that you scored. Jerry.
Could you blink it in the player's color to make it clear who's getting the spotlight?
Coming soon.
All right.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
I was thinking too, like there's blocks at the bottom that look nice, the color now, but I think it's like personally, like it's like too much color.
Yeah.
So what you could do is you could make them like maybe like a neutral color, but then there's a border of the player's color.
Yeah.
And then if they're in the spotlight, it could be like full or something like that. You could play that.
Nice.
I think look nice.
On top of that, maybe having an icon of the player's character in the blocks on the bottom.
In the UI.
So you can more easily identify which one you are, kind of thing.
Yeah. In the back.
So, what is this? What's the input for games?
It's so any of the face buttons. It's just a single button.
Does what face button do you have an impact on the gameplay? Is there any choice there?
Nope. It's just redundant. Some people don't press the right button, so all of them work.
It's like maybe consider if you want to like expand the gameplay and add some depth. Is you kind of look at fighting games and use like directionals and face button to maybe set up how quickly you can go from one dance move to another, and kind of like Mortal Kombat that where you do specific sequences you can dance longer and get more points. That might add some like depth to the gameplay rather than staying in one spot.
Nice. All the way in the back. Yeah. Nice. That's actually, I never heard that one. That's really cool. Any others?
Something that popped into mind with the different fight moves is maybe some kind of spin that you could kind of, if someone's trying to push you out, you can kind of defend yourself with sort of a spin dance move kind of thing.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. Yusuf.
I think it would be nice too to see more like playful fonts for the player one and the points and things, to fit with the style. If you just search like Cube fonts in Google, there's a lot of good free ones.
Yeah.
I really like Cube fonts specifically, but just look through the
yes.
Have you thought about playing with pushing a lot more stylized characters to really exaggerate the personalities of the characters?
I thought about it. So the original plan was to have all the characters custom. Right now they're an asset pack. It just came down to cost for me.
Okay.
But I would love to, like, if I got more budget, if I wanted to stretch the project a bit more, I would love to get custom characters like unique characters.
Have you thought about big head mode or something?
You know, I didn't think about big head. I think I can do that though. I think what I've got is my
One of the problems is they really are similar. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're different. When you can zoom in, you can see different things. Maybe their head was a bit bigger, so you got games had random sheets. Use Mohawk.
Yeah.
Like that. That might. It's not. I'm thinking of Among Us. Look at the Among Us character. Customization is really big enough that you can kind of see what it is.
Yeah.
And then that also, people talked about getting up player 1, 2, 3, 4. But then, arguably, the thing that you can put in the player 1, 2, 3, 4 is just a cameo.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Okay. Final question.
Last question in the back. No, there's no grabbing right now. It's just dancing and pushing. That was designed. So the game was actually designed for families to play, like parents and kids to play. A lot of parents can't really do more complicated controls. But I do want to add more. I do want to add more. I do want to add more depth to the game and ways that don't have more controls.
Okay, Joshua, thank you very much. Okay, next up, and we really mean it this time, is Paul Young.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. So today we're presenting Moki.
Share your screen, Paul.
Yep. So this time, I wanted to kind of discuss again gaps between game development that I think a lot of developers don't focus on. That I personally run into as we develop our project.
Well, Paul, hold on just a sec. We can't see your screen.
Oh, you can't?
No,
Yeah.
it's not.
See it now.
Connection issue. Can you stop sharing and then share it again?
Yeah, sorry about that.
Oh, Josh, can you stop sharing?
Oh, yeah.
You should be able to end it from or clicking.
Alright, I am sharing my screen now. Let me know if you can see a slideshow.
We
Yes,
can.
yes.
Go for it.
Okay, sweet. So, can you still see it in its full screen?
Yes, go for
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So today, I've been working on a project, student video game startup in the sense called Bluebird Studios. And I'm focusing more on the business marketing side for the long term with it. This is a project a few students and I have worked on for a couple of years now, and we had a lot of times where we took long breaks from the project. But we've starting to hit our stride, and a lot of that is because we've gotten good feedback recently. So today I want to go over a few things that I haven't seen much in the game dev community, and things that are very good to address and think about to realistically make game projects happen, especially ambitious ones that might have a bit more than one feature at a time. So I'm going to show a few slides from a pitch that I am preparing. And the main game, or the main series of games, rather, so a bit of context. So we're working on making like a mini world of a base camp with a bunch of different game types in it. A guy named Chris, my co-founder, we've talked to a lot of people, consulted a lot of just questions about the direction where we were at as we've gotten this project back up and running again. And we noticed that there was the direction we were going was contrary to what we learned in our entrepreneurship fellowship that we participated in at the University of Michigan. as well as just raw game development principles, and notice, we're a bit behind with where we should be for that stuff. So the main thing I wanted to talk today was when you're developing your game, don't forget the business side, and don't try to like wing the business side last minute as you're developing it. Try to continue to work at it and chip away at it organically over time with the game. We have some just consulting partners and some external stakeholders that we're talking to, and in order to have a good pitch deck, you've got to show a problem that there's a problem, whether it's a demographic of gamers that are underserved because their specific genre or blend of genres is not there for them, or whether it's even more of a real world thing, just entertainment, as a lot of games are. And you've got to be very clear about what problem you're solving, what your solution is, as well as why traditional solutions don't work, as well as just what the trends in the overall industry that you're trying to tackle are. I only have 3 slides I wanted to go over today, but I wanted to show how we've pivoted from having an ambitious overscope project to we're breaking it down into realistic chunks of timelines that we were able to execute on, and which
90 seconds
solve some business problems in the real world. So these are some images where we were trying to do all of this at the exact same time. We would have puzzle level games. We'd have like a similar like a Clash of Clans type of game, some kind of fishing mini game, and a bunch of other different game things. And to reduce that scope, we decided to start to break that into chunks and launch each one as a high polished, complete type of gameplay. And so this is basically I wanted to go over kind of just talking a little bit about how we pivoted from giving you an ambitious overscope single game to a line of games that combine line up to what we want to accomplish, which build off of each other over time. So we're trying to make games to help people with mental health stuff. I don't have the time to get into everything we're doing with that, but I wanted to discuss that a bit and to show that if you
30 seconds.
Overscoping your project to don't forget the business side. Don't forget you don't need to roll out your full game all at once unless you're like really almost done with it. Rather, you can break it into chunks, and that's the way to do it if you want a sustainable business model with the games that you make. It's more than just a hobby project. Or you want to create your own actual studio or long-term business with it. So we got a lot of good positive feedback from the complete thing we had shown, but we showed there was a problem. We showed that the types of games we're working on can't solve those problems where traditional solutions cannot work. So I think that's my time.
Yep, time. Thank you, Paul.
Show that. Perfect.
Okay, so you have 5 minutes to take questions, and you can keep showing us some stuff while you answer those questions, okay? 5 minutes.
Sure.
And since you're not here, I'll call on people for you.
Okay, thank you.
Question.
What is the most effective technique that you use for achieving like the mental health care that you want to do with your games?
Yeah, so we're still doing more research on that. Essentially, figuring out what problems are there. Like in mental health, industry as a whole, sources from all, the various Michigan universities as well as WHO, the World Health Organization, a few others. They keep showing that only about 20% of people that need mental health solutions are getting the treatment they need. That can range anything from just general anxiety, depression to a wide range of severe things. But overall, there's 4 or 5 people that traditional mental health solutions are not working for. So we are showing how we're tackling one of those individual things at a time. Like this game is going to be about developing better self-discipline habits. There's a lot of people that say they want to work on the research we've done. And by playing this game, people will be able to effectively develop that and and that problem solves kind of more of a self-esteem problem. Like this game solves more of an anxiety problem. This game solves a bit more of just self-care, like a lack sense. You might, and as you develop a business model, it's good to keep adapting, keep getting new feedback, and just not give up with it. So,
Okay. Question? In the back.
What did you mean by business side? How can you work on that?
So what did you mean? Oh, did you hear that?
I hear it clearly. The business model. So what I mean by that is, as you develop a game, there's design, art, audio, programming. Those are kind of the main core things you focus on developing a game, as well as play testing. Just what platforms you're going to put it on. But if you want people to actually see it and actually play it, how are you going to get their attention? How are you going to catch their what they're doing? And I can show another slide for this is something I did a few times over in South Studio. Not all, because this is a lot more. But it's essentially help get a lot of our games a bit more recognition during that time. Where you would try to have a very strong initial launch where you get a lot of people to sign on the game immediately at once. That puts you higher towards the charts. And usually you got a little diversity of ways to market the game. So I showed a slide here with a few ways we might plan. We plan to tackle a lot of these as we're marketing our game, depending on the funding round we're going for to help fund our team and move forward. So,
Question? Question? Any final questions? All right, Paul, thank you so much.
Thank you, Austin. Yeah.
Okay, up next we have Jeffrey Nielsen. Good ideas. Excellent.
Where's this cord?
Which cord?
The HDMI.
There is none. You share.
Share your screen. This cord.
And then turn your volume
Turn your hardware volume down. Let me.
I don't have permissions yet.
Yeah, what is your name? Oh, Chimeric, right there. And now you do. Good. Go for it.
Application. And then whatever you want to show. And that'll get out. Wait for that to show up.
Hello, I'm Jeffrey. I'm the mostly solo developer of Chimeric Games. Since I'm the speaker tonight, I thought it'd be useful to show the game I've been working on, talk about why I built it, and preview the game's final boss, which is mostly completed, beta testing now. So I created Nova Drift because I was playing an awful lot of Path of Exile, and I was realizing that every run of Path of Exile was taking hundreds of hours of my time. I wanted to try every possible build in the game, and I couldn't help but ask if there was a way to streamline that kind of deterministic building down to maybe 15, 20, 30 minutes. This is 10 years ago. You're seeing plenty of this now, but at the time it felt like kind of a new concept. Particularly, we'd seen a lot of roguelikes that were very non-deterministic, but I just loved theory crafting different ideas, so I tried to create a game that was nothing but a platform to pile on as much of that as I could possibly fit into it. So what we're about to see here is the final boss. So Nova Drift spoilers. If you don't want Nova Drift spoilers, you have to leave. And that's enormously loud.
I got it.
It's like we're actually there.
don't know if you saw just a moment ago, it went into this menu. So it's nothing more than stacking a huge amount of modifiers to define what the ship does. In this particular build, it's a ship designed to crash into enemies, blow up its shield, stack a lot of effects that capitalize that, like granting you temporary invulnerability, and generally just be destructive while moving fast. So in this clip here, he buys the Celestial Wake power, which creates a burning aura that burns both you and your enemies based on how fast you're moving. So you'll see him use that in the fight. It's coming. So the weapon is called Salvo. It sucks up missiles over time. You can see a counter on the bottom. You can deploy them whenever you want. But the build's real power is smashing at high speeds. I actually came up with that because players kept accidentally doing it, so I figured it was supposed to be fun. Found a great deal of challenge with making a boss both challenging enough for veterans and easy enough for anyone. In a game where we've balanced around endless, the game's never had an end in 10 years of development. To now suddenly have one has been a really difficult balance to maneuver. So this boss has been through an enormous amount of iterations trying to strike that balance. Right now I'm having trouble figuring out how to clearly communicate that it actually is safe to screen wrap through these coils. Right now everyone is panicking. And it's that weird thing where you want the boss to be challenging, but this is the kind of game we kind of want them to win. It's such a balancing act, especially in a game where there's nearly infinite possible configurations of the player character. So now that it's at half health, its attacks are all a little bit more dangerous, a little bit changed. It was also hard making this fit on every possible screen aspect ratio in a way that never revealed the back of the creature and wrapped properly in the coil phase. This has been like the final boss of my life, actually.
How many different attacks does it have?
I think it's about 6 main attacks, each with a small variant, depending on whether it's injured.
Okay.
It's done. But a few have variants, like it might be a laser or it might be the flamethrower.
Right, yeah.
The same
Right.
basic counter thing.
And time. Thank you. Okay, 5 minutes for questions.
I'm just going to mute it while we take questions.
I'll talk.
Cool.
So, like, first of all, it looks really dope. But what's the reasoning behind like wanting to make it a fight that you want players to win, but it's like the final boss? It's a roguelike, correct, or is it not?
It's a hybrid roguelike. It tries to balance deterministic building with some rogue elements, and we actually noticed there's such an even divide of people who want one and the other that there's a toggleable mode that basically like, makes things like rerolls a lot harder to get. So why do I want them to win? I want them to barely win on a final boss fight, right? Like I always feel like for really cinematic moments in a game, it's better to do spectacle than it is actually killer challenge when this is a point where they've deserved the victory, and if they want to play harder, the game has endless. So I'd rather them unlock that and then keep going and see how far they can push the boat. Yes.
I was going to ask. This reminded me kind of structurally of Minecraft, in that it was a game that for a long time didn't really have an ending, and now it does.
Yeah.
And I think you just answered my question, but to clarify, does the game eventually kind of put you down this road to the final boss, or do you have to opt into it, kind of like the Ender Dragon in Minecraft?
It helps you, and this game is. I wanted to do so many things with build that I cut everything that wasn't that.
Okay.
Right. So it's basically a monster grinder. What's the classic game where it was just one of the first Robotron, maybe?
Robotron 2084.
When you're just a little guy and you're constantly being assailed, and it was the first arcade game.
Yeah.
It's basically that, right? It's just spawning random formations of enemies, so that I could think about nothing more than, all right, what can we build, and what are we taking on with that? So you always meet this guy, although the other bosses, like Binding of Isaac, have an alternate version you can face to create more variety, because you want hundreds of fronts, right?
Awesome. Thank you.
So you mentioned Path of Exile was an inspiration, and I think, at least for me personally, Path of Exile seems like super intimidating because it's like a mile long and a mile high. Like, is there anything you're doing to like make it more accessible or like more easier for like players to get into?
Yeah, I thought a lot about that, because that moment that any first player sees that is like a streamable moment, right? They're like, okay, so here are mini trees. The introductory skill is all that starts in your mod pool, which is random at first. So there's only like 12 options in there. So, and they're really basic stuff. So once you've selected any one of those, it dumps the other two more niche options into the pool. So in that way, it limits you from seeing too many at once and still being allowed to focus your build by not being offered stuff you're not possibly going to use. And when we finally did need the ability to build more specific weird stuff, we had supermods, which are just unlocked by having two requisites already in your build, prerequisites. So yeah, it's just a delicate balance of I want about this many mods in the pool at any time instead of showing you really hundreds. Yes.
I guess what sort of techniques or tools do you use to just determine certain aspects of the boss's behavior, like the firing rate and things like that? Do you just tweak something and play test it, or is there something more
Oh my gosh, it's incredibly iterative. Like, I think more than other game devs, I don't use blueprints. Like at most a little sketch, and I will just start trying things and refining what I like and iterating. Like I'm not a spreadsheet. Like I'm making myself use them now, but it's very collaborative with me, the game, the players. Yes.
How do you? What sort of knobs do you tune in order to make the boss accessible for less experienced players, but also still challenging for more experienced players?
So I kind of cheated. That's really hard. And the game has, as you know, challenge modes. But even if you turned all of them off, it was still really intimidating. And the differential between the strongest builds and the weakest ones is still a chasm. We did the opposite of what a buzzword you might have heard recently is adaptive damage reduction, which like Last Epoch uses, which was to punish builds that did too much damage. They just would like do logarithm on the damage or something, right? We did the opposite. The longer the fight stretch on, it becomes more vulnerable. So if you're playing like a tanky shield build, you will eventually start to wear it down, and this is kind of hidden from the player. But I don't feel too guilty about it because I'm like curating their experience for fun, not saying, "Oh man, you're doing too much damage. Stop ruining the game." Right? Like, I don't mind that so much. It still makes me feel a little dirty, but I think it's better than just new players getting smashed by it. Yes.
So when I see games like this where you kind of give the player like a billion different upgrades, I hear a lot about developers kind of using like a yes and approach, where you come up with an idea and you're like, that's awesome, we're doing it.
Yeah.
How did you train yourself to say no?
Oh my god. It's just been so long. Like, it's been 10 years. And as I'll talk about in my presentation, Discord kind of became my office. And day after day of interacting with players, as it got to be an enormous volume, that was a skill I had to learn. And it became a necessity. Like, I couldn't get through the day unless I created ways to filter feedback and become disciplined and start reading articles about how to manage it. Because it really messed me up at first. And I don't think I would have made it this long if I hadn't just started saying no. And not just to players, but to myself too, because there's an enormous amount I want to do.
Final question.
Yes.
So it kind of looks like you've got like asteroids controls where you rotate and accelerate. Why did you pick that type of control scheme for this game?
Oh, that's like the number one reason for refund, right? It's like people saw this game and expected a shmup and didn't quite get that. They just don't like the controls. But I suppose the honest answer was I felt there were a lot of really strong shmups already in existence, and by limiting control, by building around this really powerful limitation, you're creating a lot of room for nuance. Like, the ship is slower, which allows it to behave more like a turn-based game, which lends you to combo play. Like, I could do big setups in this game that wouldn't quite be as easy to do if the ship is just incredibly agile. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, it's not just that your direction is locked to your thrust. Like, your gun's angle is also locked to your thrust. So if I have like a frontal shield, that really matters. Or if the enemy has a frontal shield, I need to get behind them. And that tactical play felt good in it. It's something that's RPG-like.
All right. Jeffrey, thank you. All right. Next up, we have Austin Yarger. Has anyone seen him? Well, okay. The fun part about this, and I always say this, but being the timekeeper, I get to decide when I'm done. I will keep it to 5 minutes, I promise you, but you will have to trust me. Okay. So if you're still streaming, Jeffrey, let me see here. The Wi-Fi, I think, is under a lot of stress. If you have a laptop, I do recommend getting it out. Okay, let's go ahead and share the screen. And then I'm going to come here. Do we have any lag? Okay, everyone. My name is Austin Yarger. Thank you so much for coming. And I've got you for 5 minutes, so we'll go ahead and begin. So I teach courses at the University of Michigan. I've got 3 courses now. And the problem that I often run into is not really one of evaluations. People really tend to enjoy these courses when they take them. The problem is advertising, marketing, enrollment. In order to keep these courses going, I have to have a lot of people consistently take them, and marketing just really isn't my thing. So how do you market in the most nerdy, like technical way possible? Well, we changed the course websites so that when you go to one of my courses, you will discover the other 2. And so hopefully that will help get some reoccurring customers, which is just a great crowd in general. I really love it when people take multiple courses of mine. However, you might not be convinced. You might come over here to the website and you might find it boring, so we had to add something else as well. If you go to eeks494.com, you'll see a character at the top of the screen, and you'll see a little prompt to press right. Hopefully you discover that, and you'll discover that there's a little mini game, a platformer, and that it's also multiplayer. You might discover that if you're there at the right time, and a lot of other people are there too, okay? If no one's there, you have no idea. So maybe one day I'll create bots so that you can constantly have someone that kind of looks human there. Anyway, this game is a really simple platformer. I wanted to see what we could do if I gave the player no mechanics at all besides just jumping and walking around and enjoying the kind of Demon Souls style multiplayer. The game uses some characters from another game of mine that hasn't really moved forward too much yet, 2 sisters, and it is kind of themed around an athletics competition. Has anyone seen like Ninja Warrior or American Gladiator, those super cheesy like obstacle course things? It's kind of themed around that, okay? So you're trying to get to the flag, and I thought it would be cool. Our sister's going to talk to us and taunt us a little bit, as a sibling does. And we can play through the game, and you can also, this is super cool, you can see other people trying to get through the game as well, and it feels a little bit like an athletics competition. One thing I want to do, all the other players look the same as you, they're just faded, so I want to have more character sprite sets so that it looks like there's like a diverse selection of athletes, from like literal dogs to like maybe like an old grandma character to like a gas station attendant character. I really enjoyed Ninja Warrior for kind of the diversity of the cast who would show up to compete. And otherwise, the game was kind of made just to be kind of retro. I think most of my games are very nostalgia-based. I'm not sure what that says about me. But it was really fun to make. I've got tiled setup, so I can really quickly create new levels. The thing, though, about using a standardized set of tools, right? I got spikes, I got blocks, I got little stars you can grab, lives you can grab. The problem with having a consistent set of tools and mechanics you can use, well, the good thing is that you can scale out really easily. The problem, though, is that it's boring if you do that, okay? Games are all about the one-offs, the things that appear once and never again. Boss fights are an enormous pain in the butt, right? As you just saw, how long did you, Jeff, how long did you spend on that boss fight? Just
3-4 months?
Yeah, 3-4 months. And the thing about bosses is that, personally, I find you can almost never like reuse stuff from a boss. It really is one-off, so it hurts my computer science side of my brain. Look at all these, got me. This is the Lion King style difficulty spike, where you're, little physics bug, where you're barely into the game and it's super hard. I actually have these here because I wondered if I could make a super hard level that was still fun to play, and you'll have to be the judge of that. But let me see here. I think my server is beginning to struggle. It's using a super cheap Amazon EC2 instance. This is all made in JavaScript and HTML5 with a little help from the Easel.js framework, which I don't like very much, and I'm not sure I would recommend. Oh, look, it's so lonely in this stage. What happened? Can anyone join me? So I'm going to keep playing here a little bit and show you some... Oh, I guess not. So it was really fun to make. It uses WebSockets on the client side. It uses... hold on just a sec. This is so evil. Oh. Okay, thank you. And then this is the first boss that you actually can't beat yet, and it's not finished. More characters have to come, but it's like a cheer team. And so you have to they keep showing up more and more until you die, basically. But I'm going to keep working on this. We need additional moves for this boss. We need a sense of rhythm, which means we need audio for the boss. We also have sprites for a male cheerleader as well, who's going to come in and support. And yeah, I want to make this game, and I'm just about to run out of time, I want to make this game like 3 worlds. And hopefully the whole point is students show up and they're like, oh, the prof really can make games. That's cool. Anyway, do you have any questions? 5 minutes. All right, let's see if anyone can get here. Yes?
You can add a feature where at the end of your last course, whoever got the top grade gets to add a feature to the game.
Well, they have to do it, though. I'm not going to do it. It's too much work. It was really fun to make this. I just got finished with the game engine architecture course, which you can see on the right down here. It's the rightmost course. And I had to re-implement a bunch of mini crappy engine features like composition, Unity style, to make any of this stuff scale. Big pain. Anyway, yes?
At the risk of scope creep, it would be cool to see where all the other people who are playing it are in the game. Because once you leave the level that they're in.
I'm just super lonely in the stage right now. I wish someone had the skills to catch up. That'd be cool. But I agree. I'm not sure what we would do, though, because I don't want to clutter up the minimalistic kind of 1-bit NES era aesthetics. But if you have any ideas, let me know, because I think that's a really good idea. I keep getting killed. Yes?
This is more of an idea than a question as well. But if you have 3 worlds, and like probably most people only get to the first world.
Yeah, probably. But the people who make it further, it'll be really special for them. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was thinking it'd be cool if there's a way to get access to other worlds at the very start. Well, I think that's something. This is originally designed for arcade cabinets, so I was thinking short sessions. I feel like you have the same situation here. It's a short session type of game.
Yep.
And be able to see more stuff in that session. Nice. But like, if they're harder, it's fine. It's like the part you just go to. Like, I want to see if I can beat this one now.
Yes, so save system, it will save your progress. The problem is, because these are different domains, if you go to a different website, it resets your progress there. Unless I create a login system, which I really don't want to do, I can't really I can't keep your progress.
Well, it doesn't need to be a save system. It could be a memory type thing. Or like
Passwords? Oh, let's go.
Mega Man with the dots and the 5
Yeah.
On the stage, it's like press this button to like access a new place, and then you press it, also it's like new place.
Austin, you want 3 worlds, you have 3 classes.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah,
So
but
those
I
are your
don't
3
know.
start points.
I don't know. Yeah, I can't. They all have to start easy though.
So excuses.
I was thinking I might make 3 different games, one for each course.
Okay, now we got scope.
Yes. Matthew, did you make it here? The boss? Did you make it to the boss? Okay, go ahead. The networking, WebSockets, and JavaScript. It's a really simple API. I like it a lot. And then on the other end, Node.js server. And I don't know a whole lot about Node.js. The AI assistants really help there, getting you started with like a hello world. And really, the multiplayer, as long as you keep it Demon Souls and Dark Souls, the multiplayer is super easy, okay? All you do as a client is report your position and maybe a little bit about your state. All the server does is grab that and broadcast everyone's state to everyone. And then when you get that information on the client, you're just like, oh, here's a list of players and their locations. I just put a character sprite there. That's it. It gets super nasty, though, if, for instance, you want everyone to fight the boss at once and contribute to a shared world. Hellish, okay? But maybe I'll get to that one day. And then no one will ever play it because no one plays the game. Yes?
Did you build out any sort of like special tools or editors to make
Just tiled. And you have to write some JavaScript to properly like read the tiled output. It outputs JSON, and the JavaScript knows kind of where the images will be. It knows where to look for the levels on the server, and then it simply spawns stuff where it needs to be. So there's a little bit of infrastructure you need to write, but then it's really easy to get it going. It's all hosted on a static Amazon S3 bucket with CloudFront CDN in front of it, so it's pretty fast to load. If the stuff takes too long to load, Google deprioritizes your website because they think the performance is bad, so that's not good. Okay, any questions? Got 30 seconds left. Yeah.
I just want to say I love the Ninja Gaiden like cutscenes.
Thank you.
And the writing's really good too. I don't know if you did all of
Oh, thank you. So the art was by Malin Maguri. There's a lot of writing in this game, actually, because they'll say a new thing to you every time you fail out. And because it's 2 sisters bickering with each other, like, I'm an only child, so I have to ask some of my playtesters, like, is this how... one of my playtesters said, like, the writing is really good because when you have a sibling, you never quite know if they're an ally or an enemy. And that's kind of how this feels a little bit. Any final question? Final question. No final question? All right. Thank you all so much. Yes. So you all know about the game now, so play it and let me know what you think, okay? And I'll keep updating it. All right, everyone. We've got about 15 minutes until our major presentation for the night. Jeffrey and Miles, if someone talked up here tonight and you didn't get a chance to ask a question, they're probably still here. So for the next 15 minutes, talk to each other, find out what each other's favorite game is, use the name tags if you forget what their name is, and we'll see you in 15 minutes. There might be pizza back there too. See you then.
My time, I've been working on
Hey, what's up?
I am applying to MSU grad program for next winter. Sorry. For next winter.
Next winter, okay?
I live in MC. My girlfriend's in East. I'm graduating for fall.
Yeah, sure.
How many days a week?
Why is my audio not going? Do you notice this?
It's really good.
Oh, it's because I'm muted. That's why.
Yeah, I mean, I know I do that drive too. Yeah. Let's talk to that because he just graduated from the program.
Yeah.
And for an hour drive, I would say typically
Well, it's in person. As long as it's not streamed.
yeah, I mean, because I would also say
It's kind of a holdover from the pandemic. We put in a lot of
also say, also check out,
Especially if we get CMS and reading. Some weeks of Unity.
Right, yeah. Yeah, no, I know. I taught at USC for you. I taught at Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
I have very much value. So you're familiar, that's
Cool.
good.
Well,
We've been moving more towards
if you tell any of your professors that you met me, they'll know.
people are open to use cases, experimentation.
Cool. Yeah, how long are you in town for? Oh, okay. Well, there's my card. That's very cool. I'm so glad the program's doing well. I'm so glad that the integration with your sites is much better now.
Motion graphics animation.
Oh,
using our technology to facilitate class.
Oh, okay.
But using Canvas in conjunction with a way to add something through.
How many projects do they have?
So the answer is yes.
Right, and are all of them still like 20 to 50 people? Yeah. So who is doing Game Art? Is Game Art in cinema still?
Where were the first years?
And also because
we're working with some people that shut down physics instructor, and that has led to a lot of
Tons of potential. But send me an email.
Do you take that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Email is like my go-to.
Yeah.
But
Sure, and I'll just
No. I saw someone with a Spartan. Oh, okay. Well, I mean,
Second Work's been cheering for you for a long time.
Was, you know, the lead on.
We talk about you at least once a semester.
I was one of his advisors. But
what's up?
Okay, so not many after that. Thank you. I mean, frankly, when my students go to grad school, I recommend USC, but I say it's insanely expensive.
Right now, so you can't really have
well, that's awesome. Wow, that's fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, that's like
yeah.
That sounds about 40 years.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was thinking. It's already useful to have the same API and
congratulations on
If you're writing your first example, if you don't have any experience everything within it now, there's a very good chance you're not going to be able to get good
Oh, wow. Okay. So,
That's great. I think
So,
there's no way we're making any
yeah, once you have enough knowledge and like it works, there's a good chance you will extract these 5 things and then turn these 2 vendors into base class.
Yeah.
Now you have all things. I would probably not go for that because your brain is
Yeah, no, that's what I've been like watching the game entry guide, and like and just like going through it, it's like he's doing that, and I'm like, oh my god, I want all of this, and I was like, oh, I should probably make like use like its UIs and
yeah, and maybe you could make a game with it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's good. One way to break it up.
My thing is, I want to do OpenGL, and then I want to move on to the because I think that would be really
like you're pretty much walking Robbie's path.
Yeah,
so
no, I
should talk to him.
because I looked at his to like see what he did.
And he did exactly.
It seemed like he downloaded third-party dependency and already had an API.
Well, yeah, he knows great.
Okay, so
I was asking about in terms of like the US Game Studio, you were there when it did. How is that different from before when it was just?
It's on the Canvas page. It is just an iframe that points to another website. So iframes are really cool in that they allow you to embed a website inside of a website. And that can work for anything. I can embed google.com onto Canvas if I want to using an iframe. In general, with this game, you can go look exactly how it works. Page source. You're gonna go to page source, and then you're gonna search for minigame.js. Okay, click minigame.js, and here's the source code for the entire game. Look at all these nasty variables.
How do they?
The entire game in one file. Ouch. It kind of stinks. But I started this about a week and a half ago. Yeah. Yeah, you can these days. I recommend if you're not using them, use the AI assistants to quickly help you learn about new technologies. For instance, if you're just thinking about using a new API or a new library or a new framework, it's super good to be like, hey, I'm using this easel.js. How do I display something in easel.js, right? And you can move super fast by doing that. Anyway, yeah.
I have another question. This is like totally disjointed. I was interested in taking a 40 next semester.
Heck yeah, please do, because that course is having enrollment issues.
I think one of the things that's stopping me from taking it is I took 494 last year. I already have an applicant.
Yes.
And I need an upper level to graduate.
Yeah. Well, you need it this semester?
Yes.
Okay, because you could take the game engine architecture in winter.
That's what I'm also planning.
You're planning to do that? Oh, great.
Upper level just to be for 6 semesters.
Sure. So EECS 440 and EECS 494 are mutually exclusive for most people because they're both capstones. Taking both of them doesn't advance you in your career. However, it will give you a nice big portfolio boost because you'll have Unreal Engine knowledge and Unreal Engine projects. You'll have AR projects. You'll have a Pokemon Go clone. My recommendation for people who are very serious about game dev and or game adjacent stuff like visualization or VR, AR, whatever, is to try and take both. 440 won't complete any upper level CS objectives for you. The good news though is that EECS 440 is pretty easy, especially for a 494 student. And so it's the kind of course you can add on to like an EECS 482 if you really want to. So anyway, think about it. You can always DM me if you want more thoughts. But I would say take it if you can. It's not nearly as heavy as 494, like not even close. The average in that course is like an A++. Okay? The course is especially easy if you have a Windows device. The course is especially easy if you don't have an iOS phone or if you have an iOS phone and a Mac. If you have a Windows computer and an iOS device, it's a bit harder, and you have to use some of the on-campus laboratories.
Austin?
Yes.
Hey, so thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
A couple of my students, Bilal and Langston, they're hoping to meet some Wolverine-Soft folks so they can have like a street fight or something. No, they've been collaborating on some stuff, and it's like know people's names, but I've never seen them in person.
Talk to you over Discord. Yeah, talk some more games. Oh yes,
yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yes, yep, very, very fun. Very good stuff.
So, I guess I don't see some of the typical Wolverine-Soft people here today.
Yeah, a few of them I think will remote today.
Oh, okay.
That's a little bit sad. Dan is in a Wolverine-Soft studio. The other guy with the beanie over there, he's a guy worth talking to. He's really cool. And I see some of my students, but not Wolverine-Soft. But they're usually here during the school year, especially, so that might be a better time. Just jump into the Wolverine-Soft Discord, throw down some good memes or insights, and collaborating with them. Oh yes, great! That's going to be a lot of fun. They used to do that. In 2009, 2010, they did that. Yeah, they kind of broke off. So it's really good that that's happening again. Make sure that the standards for the competition are really well set, well disclosed.
When is it happening?
The only thing I know about the pre-2011 time was that something happened where a bunch of the devs got annoyed because, one of the schools didn't know the rules and used engines that were supposed to, and so it was fighting the game. It sounds really dumb. The most important thing is that you talk a lot and you keep things kind of lighthearted.
Every engine, the only thing that kind of ban is AI art.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you're allowed to use enemies.
There should be a game jam where the only thing you're allowed to use is AI art. You just watch the monstrosities show up. You can only ask the assistants for stuff. You can't type any code yourself. Oh god. That sounds like a nightmare.
I almost gave a 5-minute talk today about the shit I've learned about what doesn't work with AI in the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
It's a thing, man. Anyway, it's super good to meet you. I'm very glad that you're talking to the two campuses. Our campuses aren't that far. It's just an hour or so. It's a good, nice community, and you want to make it bigger. We got to connect all these cool scenes. So yeah, that's right. EMU and Kettering toward Flint, and I do sometimes feel sad that our state kind of feels like it's split in two, like the awesome Grand Rapids scene. It's so hard to get over there. It's hard to get people over here. Anyway, good for you. Good job.
One day I was going to be an actual game jam where schools in and
that would be fun.
Definitely not during my presidency for Sparta Soft, but maybe 10 years down the line.
The location makes sense. It's kind of central of the state. So I feel sorry for the poor Michigan Tech students. They got a cool scene up there, but I've never once seen it.
And do they have a club up there? I talked to some few of them, tech students.
Yeah, they definitely do. I feel like that's pretty much guaranteed to happen because it's we can't talk to anyone else, so we form our own group.
Well, I mean, like,
it was a little bit like frustrating.
Yeah,
It's a great school.
My parents are coming to
see,
Saturday, so
but they might as well be
some kind of cleaning. But
It's like a 4.5 hours drive.
You did tell me that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and it's brutal for them. If you live up there, you ever want to get like a flight someplace? Is it not like a near airport? The Cherry Capital Airport is really tough.
No, I'm trying to think about it.
And it's like you can't use it for every flight. It's tough. So yeah, sometimes you have to drive all the way to DTW or maybe Grand Island for it. Let's go. Good to see you.
Finally realized you
Yes, it's always good to see you all. Yeah, I'm really glad you're making the scenes tighter. And I hope you'll forgive me when I hop into the Sparksoft Discord and spam the event ads. I do that with love. I know the AI oh yeah, it started firing people for us. Immediately when that happened, I got the permissions and the president to put Sparksoft video ads right when someone got fired. Rock and roll. Yeah. Anyway, I will see you around. Okay, we gotta get ready for that presentation. I'm just that's great.
And if you have one person who's
okay, that's something.
I can hold my own. So, yeah, no, okay, so there you go.
We had a pretty good job today, too. Good stuff.
You make it so much easier.
Yeah, I just had like gameplay footage type stuff. I know.
It doesn't seem to give me an option to share. That's great. Or share your screen. That's Discord. Anything you see, everyone else will see.
Yeah, there's my boss is like maybe hiring.
So we have just one or two more. The thing to remember is, I wish we had a microphone or something. It is a long room, lots of people in the back, so please try and project as much as you can. You don't have to be sorry about yelling. I will do something to give you. Way out of time. I'm not sure you can extend this to unless you go crazy and start leaving. You see the you can get those afterward. If you have a long drive, you don't. I have to hotel. Let me know next time. Just a let me know anytime. You don't actually I'll tell him when he gets back. Getting people to use it. Marketing. Let's see here.
because I also have a children. I can So the first one I bought was already. Yeah, I'm ready. Just kind of I need to go. I need to get around. All the places where they can see.
Oh yeah, right. Yeah, that's fascinating. I know a guy in Asheville who he just moved there about a year after I did. He's fantastic. He's really dynamic. He's like in his late 20s. He's so excited that he made this guy for a game or whatever. It's great. He was so excited. He was like making tape, like this 3D open world, like the city or whatever. Like around, like trying to papers on yes, but like really like text right? So when you get missions, and so like you can get it there, right? What is his season score experience? Is that actually himself? But he does. Is it like he does like high quality copies? It's a high quality so he has like a couple of people that I know in his community, like YouTube. Anyway, so he went through the whole thing with Steve like the last 2 years. He went to these festivals. And I got like right up next to him. He's like, I got some photos and videos. Yeah, sometimes when I'm up here taking photos, people don't ignore me, or the speaker will leave me behind them taking photos, which is always super awkward. Anyway, yeah, just ignore me if I'm up here taking photos. I might still be making some shots. Also, before we get if you ever have a long ride in Ann Arbor without a hotel, I got a spare room. Airbnb grade for sure. That's awesome. It's LARPing. We don't actually Airbnb it out. We got like snacks and all problems. I live like it's like 1 mile from the stadium. Upstate. Oh, that's where you're living. So it's not far at all. I can drive it. No, I mean, I might have sleeping bag if you want. I definitely have at least one bed available. Just let me know if you're out. Really kind, thank you. Yeah, no problem. You ready to go? Yeah. Do you want to click it to advance the slideshow? You sure? Okay. I do have a space. Okay! Ladies and gentlemen, come on back! Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have a phenomenal set of guests with us tonight. Do we have a little bit of echo?
Yeah.
I think maybe. Yeah, see if we can. Okay. Somebody else's computer? Yeah, possibly someone else. Really quickly, let's see. Testing 1, 2, 3. I think we'll mute. Yes, we'll mute you here. Cool. Okay. And then it'll come through that. All right, everyone. We have a phenomenal set of guests here today. An inspiring set of guests. They've made classic games, right? Some of which we played growing up. They've made modern games, which we are playing today. And when it comes to Steam advertising, when it comes to building successful games, these two are it, okay? And we're so lucky to have them in our community here in Michigan, okay? And so please, will you all welcome Jeffrey and Miles as they talk about early access. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you.
once again, I'm Jeffrey from Chimeric. This is Miles from PixelJam. I'm a mostly solo dev, and I'll talk a bit about why I put that in quotes. I've made games in some form or another since I was 14 years old, and Miles and I have been through a lot together. We met quite a long time ago, actually, because I was a huge fan of Dino Run, and just on a whim sent him some fan art. Led to a conversation, which never happens, and we started working together on different contract projects and just jamming on things, and it was great. It led to opportunities to work on his games, and later he would work on games with me. Nowadays, he publishes for my company, and he's also the game's audio and musician. Yeah.
It was the best piece of fan art we had received for Dino Run yet. And I think we asked you to make new, not versions of it, new art.
Yeah, we iterated a few times.
Yeah.
The first piece was kind of just like generic dinosaurs, but then I made Rich, the PixelJam's artist, right? Back in these days, PixelJam was mostly two guys, and he wanted to see what the game would look like as a proper sequel, so I gave him another shot. That piece looks silly to me now, but
that sequel
Rich saw something in it.
It did eventually manifest.
Yeah, and we've got a slide for that too. We'll talk a bit about it. This is Nova Drift. You've seen a clip of it already. If you weren't here for my 10-minute segment, it was basically me trying to explore how short can we make mostly deterministic building action RPG with a goal of 15 to 20 half hour. We came pretty close, over like 30 to 40 minutes in the end, was what it felt like to have a run duration in which you could take a build from conception to execution and have a lot of fun and rapidly iterate. Notably, it did really well in early access, and that's what we want to talk about today, is what we learned in that 10-year journey, sort of designing a game to fund itself, to be profitable while you're still building.
And I am basically one half of the founders of PixelJam. We started in the developing Flash game scene in 2005 and 6. Basically, I was doing a lot of Flash animation that was my job, and Rich was doing the same thing. And so when Flash gaming blew up, we figured we could have a shot at it. And I think our first game was Gamma Bros in the upper, that one right there. It's kind of like a Robotron-esque shooter. We generally focused on things that are kind of cute, family-friendly, cartoonish, but then we gradually went into other things which are not shown here. This is probably more representative of kind of the first half of PixelJam. And these days, we started getting into micro-publishing. That's when Jeffrey and I made a game. Well, I did the music for it, but your first coding, Alpha to Omega coding experience was Last Horizon, which is not focused, which is not shown.
It's not, no.
So that's when we started working together, in earnest, right?
Yeah. Before that, I had done a lot of contract work.
Right.
With PixelJam doing pixel art. I have a background almost entirely in art. It wasn't until Last Horizon that I had my crash course into coding.
Right.
And that gave me the confidence to try to build Nova Drift.
Right.
Which really is another crash course.
Yes, it worked out. So we've made, I used to say more than 30 games, but I guess it's probably more than 40. A lot of them that you don't see here were for Adult Swim. We made about a dozen games for Adult Swim in their website heyday. I don't know if people used to play Adult Swim Flash games, but we made a good amount of those. And so we've been doing a lot of different things for a very long time. We went from Flash, we went to mobile, when paid premium mobile was blowing up, in the 2011, 2012. Then that transitioned to free to play, which we weren't interested in, so we went on over to Steam. And since we've been on Steam, we've been releasing our own games, and then that's when Jeffrey and I decided to work together on Novadrift. And that was in 2018. We started. No, well, you've been working on it since Last Horizon finished, right?
Yeah. At first, it even had some of the same artwork.
Oh, right.
No, you know what? I started it before that, and then we took a year break to build that game.
Right.
And then about
Yeah.
9 years.
Yeah. Got it. And this is our current major project. PixelJam has a lot of things going on at any given time. We're making a lot of very small arcade games now, but we're making a sequel to Dino Run, which was probably our most popular game in like 2007 to 2010. We've tried to make this game many times. We've tried and it has failed for various reasons, but we finally figured out how to keep going with it. And so this is takes up probably most of my mind share these days as far as I used to do coding for all of our games. I was the coder and half musician and co-designer, and I did all the marketing, but I don't really code that much anymore. I mainly just do design, marketing, music, management, cheerleading,
which is really important.
So yeah.
So this is sort of my preamble. I'm guessing some people recognize this image. I do want to talk about survivorship bias a lot because I think it's really important in the space of indie developed games. It simply means assessing successful outcomes while disregarding failures. This image I love to use to demonstrate. This is a World War II plane that came back, and from this data they built, this picture represents where these ships were being shot, basically, that would return home. This is the places you would see the bullet holes. This is a perfect example of very bad data. Because, some of you may know this, the reason we don't see any holes here is because the ships that were shot there did not return. So basing data on this, basing a premise off this data is bad. Making indie games is crazy risky. Novadrift is not, it's an outlier. It was a good idea at the right time, but a lot of it was happenstance and luck. Incredibly few indie games are profitable. 50% of them are less than $1,000. I know. And I think it's fair to say it's getting harder than it was when we started. So it's important to know that while I was making Novadrift, I had advantages that most people didn't have. I'd worked before at 4 different companies of various sizes. I had the benefit of PixelJam's mentorship and great experience throughout the entire process. We had already released Last Horizon, as we mentioned, so because of that, we didn't really have to borrow or beg for money. I had a wife who was willing to cover living expenses while I developed it in the beginning. I was living in Thailand, where the cost of living is low. And despite all of that, the game still took 10 years to develop. Talk about that more later. So all of that is to say, manage your expectations. I don't think anyone really knows the secret formula to develop a successful game. We can just share what we know and what we've learned.
That's me. All right. So probably everybody here is familiar with Steam. Depending on how long you've been using Steam, you might have noticed that Steam has gone through many major iterations. It used to be kind of like just like a good old boys club that only had like 50 games on it, and in order to get on it, you had to know somebody or you had to be super high profile. Then they went to, I think there was something between what I'm going to say, but then they went to Greenlight. If anybody here remembers Greenlight, you had to like vote in a game, and that's how we got our first games on Steam. That's how we got the original Dino Run and a couple other games. We went through Greenlight. Something about it felt a little weird, and then they opened it up to everybody. And I don't know. I think did they have early access overlap with Greenlight, or did early access come right after they squashed Greenlight? I can't remember. But I remember, so early access 5 years ago when Novadrift launched on it is very different than modern day early access which was different than early access when early access first launched on Steam. So we've kind of seen, the perceptions of it, the usages of it. I'd say we launched kind of like in the middle period of early access, where early access games were starting to lose the stigma of probably not worth your money, because there definitely was that in 2018 and 19. Like, I remember talking to content creators that just kind of like didn't play early access games on principle because they weren't finished, or it made a lot of sense for Nova Drift to put it on early access, but of course one of the main reasons people do it is because they need money to finish their game, and so like these days there's a lot of early access oriented development, right? So a lot of the games, even that the PixelJam starts, we will develop them knowing that we are going to go in early access, and we try not to make it something that we have to do because we need money, because we've run out of money, and we need to present the game in its current state to basically try to get money to get to the finished state. We try not to be in those situations. But yes, you can earn revenue as they're developed if they're popular. So it's a great way to find out if your game has legs, but I think most people probably know you should be prepared for the game to make no money, and then you face a decision of maybe I should just pull the plug. So it is a good way to see if your game has legs. Not all games are obviously fit for early access. Nova Drift was. We agreed because it already felt, air quotes, finished at the time. Well, to me it did, not to him. Never will. Right. But it's not a game that had levels. It didn't have like level 1, level 2, and we're only giving you 3 levels. It was modular, right?
Yeah,
and it was
exactly.
the type of game where you can just keep adding modules and content, and it just, I think when we launched on early access, people already felt like the game was finished because we front loaded the visual polish and the audio design.
And that structure was really deliberate. Like, I want it to be good as a bare bones core loop, but great with a lot of content.
Right.
So, a lot of the span being 10 years was not ideal. Some of it was intentional, saying like, well, this is already performing in early access. I have the choice to make this bigger and take longer if I want to.
And I will mention, probably from my perspective, not just with Nova Drift, for the other games we've had in early access, beta testing, extensive beta testing for long periods of time with as many people as possible is probably about one of the best things you can do for your game to, develop, to manifest it into, not necessarily, at that point, I won't say your vision because it's going to become everybody's vision at that point. But when we did Dino Run in 2006, I think we thought it was done after 3 or 4 months of development.
I can't imagine.
And then we started. We thought it was done, so we started beta testing it. And at the time, that was the Flash days where there was kind of like a built-in player base just through web browsers. We got a lot of people to play it. We got a lot of amazing feedback that made us realize that we weren't nearly done, and so we put in like another 5 to 6 months until it was actually done.
Not years, months.
Did I say years?
No, it's just like,
okay.
I am not fast.
Dino Run came together pretty quickly. Point is here, early access gives you that opportunity to have beta test. Basically, they are beta testers that are paying you for the opportunity to beta test the game, which is something that was considered very strange before early access came out. Like in the context of like a AAA game, why would somebody pay money to beta test a AAA game? It's always like, I want to get paid by the company making the AAA game to test their game.
But it turns out people love to be a part of that journey, and
they do,
especially when you make it easy for them to contribute.
And Steam plus Discord makes it very, very easy to, as we will show in later slides, create community, engage them, keep them interested, have them help to bring new players into the community, that sort of thing. Shall I go?
Yeah. Yeah. So to be transparent,
stonks.
Stonks. What went well for Novadrift during early access? It sold about 350,000 units, which paid for its development. It's played about 4,000 times per day when Steam is promoting it, which is to say, like during a deal, a daily deal, a week-long deal, or when there's a major streamer playing it.
Right.
It's accumulated 108,000 wish lists, a Discord of nearly 10,000 members, and it's among the highest-rated solo-developed, big air quotes, games with 96% positive reviews. When I do the air quotes, at this point, and this gets back into our discussion about community building, there's quite a few people who help out with Novadrift, so I feel very guilty saying solo-developed at this point. Apart from Miles' contributions with audio and music, quite a few of the people on our Discord would go on to contribute in really meaningful ways, both in terms of code support, but yeah, slide for that later. And all this, it's not out yet, which is great. We're set up for a nice launch. But let me also be a cautionary tale. I thought this was the smallest project. In fact, our initial
How
pitch,
long did you think it would take?
well, the idea we pitched was very different
I
than
know,
what we
I
actually
remember what
decided
you're
to
talking
make.
about,
With
yeah.
3 months was the original pitch
Right.
to the client. That was for a client game.
Right.
When we decided to make it ours, I said, okay, no, I'm going
Yeah.
to make the game I imagined, which is clearly a 2 to 3 year game. And part of that was like naivety. I don't
And
think anybody
the
is.
original roadmap when we launched on early access, I think estimated it would be in early access for about another year to another year and a half.
So I'm never doing roadmaps again. I don't like them. Yeah, but I do want to talk about everybody's wrong about release dates. Like hundreds of percents wrong. Like I think if you can get it down from like 10 times wrong to 3 times wrong, that's pretty good. But I develop with that in mind now. I'm extremely careful about how and when I promise things, and I try to use language that gives me a lot of wiggle room and gives me opportunity to have good reasons for things not being out.
And yeah, we learned a lot about this running Kickstarter campaigns as well, because we've done quite a few, I don't remember how many, but learning to set expectations with the way you speak to people who are interested in your game is super important. And we always learn this the hard way, because we say something that later we deeply regret because a bunch of people really wanted that thing to be true, and they'll call you a liar or a scam artist
Publicly.
when all when all you did was make a bad estimate.
But on the other hand, if you tell people, sorry, I care if it's good, it'll be done when it's ready.
Yeah,
they like that too.
They do.
So I try to be really upfront about it, and instead of just promising a hard deadline, I'll say, well, let's see how much I can get this done, this update. And we'll go from there. So while a lot of that was an experience and bad estimate, a lot of that was also a choice based on revisiting like where we're at, how much we want to add, how much funds are available, like what's the right amount of time. So I guess my point is, if you're in early access and your game is selling, you have a lot more flexibility in how and when you roll things out. Data is cool. I just want to talk about like what a selling game looks like potentially during early access, and you'll see that this is a lot of spikes. There's some really flat ground here. I'll let Miles talk more about it.
Yeah.
But the short version is games don't really sell when they're not on sale.
Yeah, that's true. So the top left, we have, that's only year one.
That's year one. The second one was when we had more data.
Oh, right.
And the one at the bottom is all the way between 2019 and 2023.
Yeah. So that top left spike was launched, and we were thrilled with that.
By the way, this fits here.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's really interesting.
And so I used to be a lot more thorough with the recording of the correlation of streamers and YouTubers that played the game two sales spikes, and that will actually be really important later when we talk about paid promos and sponsorships. But I was trying to get hard data with this type of YouTuber. I'll say YouTuber because it was mainly YouTubers that made a difference. This type of YouTuber with this type of audience played for this long and it had this many views, which resulted in this sales spike. So I made so we can see like a couple Yogscast guys played it at the beginning, and we participated in a few sales. We got some. We were really heavily trying to get it in front of Path of Exile streamers, which wasn't nearly as successful as we hoped, but we did get.
No, that's super mattered in the end, though.
It did matter in the end, but it was difficult in the beginning. It took us years, I think. Well, besides Ziggy and Zizzer.
Ziggy is directly there because of a Reddit post I made.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And that Reddit post was pre-release, and that was actually. Oh no, was this a different Reddit post?
I only did the one. It felt like something I was allowed to do exactly.
Yes, that was. It was. Yeah.
That was very calculated.
Yeah.
But it allowed us to access the other Path of Exile streamers who all knew Ziggy. So I thought it really bear mention.
Right. Yes. Very important. And then, as he said, this upper left thing is only a small portion of the bottom. So what started to happen was, well, this is from like early 19 to not even this ends in like 22. So this doesn't even have like the last year on it. But
it does represent, I think, when it was most popular.
Yeah, what you're seeing here is the peak of popularity, and I could talk a whole lot about this. I'll try to keep it brief. What you're seeing here, I'd say right around here would be the explosion of the Vampire Survivors effect. So, and this has a lot to do with the Steam algorithm as well. So it was doing pretty well before here. Vampire Survivors comes out, and we noticed that Vampire Survivors, well, Jeffrey may disagree with this, but I always thought that what Nova Drift did to Path of Exile, Vampire Survivors did to Nova Drift. So it kind of took the idea of, rapid build creation, but instead of upgrading every couple minutes, you're upgrading every few seconds, or like, and it basically just removed all of the bells and whistles of Nova Drift, all of the polish, and all of the depth, and just gave you like, it's almost like a slot. It has like slot machine vibes, and that's what people really wanted. So,
but I also want to say, like, neither of these are original ideas, right? Like, we saw these games back in the Flash time. We just packaged them in a different time, in a different way, to a different audience.
So what happened around here was. Vampire Survivors blew up, and then the Survivors clones started coming through. So like Horde Survival was like a huge. It was like this is like the Horde Survival rogue-like explosion of 22, I guess like 21. And what would happen was that you go on Steam. It was basically the recommendation algorithm from the page of all the Survivors clones would put Nova Drift at the top of the. If you like Vampire Survivors, you will probably like Nova Drift and Deep Rock Galactic and these other games. And for a while, we were like one of the top 9 favorite games because we were already selling pretty well. And so, like, you can think of the algorithm as like a small fire, and Steam is like there with an enormous vat of gasoline, but it won't squirt the gasoline on it unless you come over and squirt your own gasoline on it. And if you can get enough gasoline in there, the Steam algorithm will see, oh, this is a big fire. I'm going to squirt some more gasoline on it. Let's see how big it can get. And it's always monitoring that all the time, and it's always figuring out, the way to sell you the most games possible, because that's what Steam is built for, to make money. So, this is really it's not exclusively that. There's a lot of other things. We did do a few like sponsorships, which I will get into later. And
some of these are daily deals, but we didn't qualify for these daily deals until we had to kind of show the algorithm that we had some juice over here, and so it's all these kind of stepping stones. You don't really. I don't think there's much of a human being at Valve doing this. I think it's more algorithmically kind of run because they don't have enough human beings to do all that. But these huge spikes were either major YouTubers that found it, Northern Lion maybe, or Aliens Rock, or Angry Tom, or Yogscast. He was one of the beginners.
Real Civil Engineer.
Oh yeah.
Aliens Rocky said.
Yeah.
This, I believe this was a concurrent, this daily deal along with a streamer in China that we didn't know who it was.
Yeah.
We could not in any way access the.
We could do a whole other talk on Steam China. Extremely mysterious.
I'll touch on it.
Because Steam in China is basically a completely different thing. But yes. The occasional random YouTuber at the right time when it was already on sale and the algorithm was already favoring it. And this is probably kind of its peak right here. And it doesn't look too much more spiky than over here, but what's really important to notice is the baseline. So the baseline is basically, here it was oh yeah, we're selling a lot. It was oh, this isn't so great. This baseline is actually really low. It might be 5 units in a day or 10 units or something. I mean, which is great if you're solo indie, first starting out, selling 10 units a day. It's really great. But at this point, there were a lot of people. There was a lot of development to do, and people were just starting to come on, and we knew we had a long road ahead of us. So, sorry, I won't go on a tangent here, but the baseline actually, I would say, is more determining of the overall success. Because here you can see when it goes up, Steam squirts gasoline on it, and it takes a long time for the fire to go out. So we can see the baseline start to go back to normal levels here. And then here, this is probably the best peak we had because one thing just kept happening after another. This was their winter sale. It was a huge Yogscast stream. The Jingle Jam, they played it, and that had 5,000 concurrent viewers. And
it's absolutely a feedback loop.
Yeah, it's a total positive feedback.
The more people help it happen.
Yeah, exactly. And so this really high baseline here made a huge difference, and that basically funded development. So I won't go too much into that. Probably spend enough time.
It is interesting though. I know this is just an early access one, but this felt like a real launch to me.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me that this is how the meta of selling games was before early access. You had your giant launch.
Oh right.
That you staked everything on.
Yeah.
And if it's at a bad time or it doesn't do well, that's it.
Yeah. And you can actually. So this is data that only we have, but you can actually kind of infer this data from almost any game on Steam by looking at their review history. And these things will generally echo the review history pretty well. And so a lot of games, most games, especially games that are not on early access, it looks like a hockey stick. It goes way up at launch, and then it just flatlines all the way through. And that's not really good. That's not really what you want to do. Unless this initial spike is so incredibly large, that it funds the next couple of years of your life. That's great. But the main benefit of early access was we knew that this spike was just we didn't know how big it would get, of course. And of course that is that, and that was great. We were very excited about this. PixelJam had never been involved in a launch of that many units before. But we didn't really know that we would be updating it for 5 years to come, and that every single one of those updates was another opportunity to get out there and promote, send it to content creators, make a lot of noise on social media, contact press again. And so it was just kind of the same beating the drum every 3 to 5 months when an update came out. That's the main advantage of early access, I'd say in a nutshell, is it gives you lots of opportunities to
beat the drum.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about? I don't know if you want to put this later, but I don't know if this is.
It's not super important. I was just trying to figure out where we were in like the week-long deals.
Okay.
And a long time ago, I'd say week-long deals had a lot more effect on sales than they do now. But I was just trying to figure out like why we were getting these spikes when we weren't getting any like major content creator coverage. And I realized that we had just gotten. It's a competition to see who's going to be at the top of the week-long deal list. And a long time ago, if you're at the top of the week-long deal list, you would actually kind of like cascade into the front slot on Steam, which, as we know, is the holy grail of discoverability. It's kind of like the front page of Steam.
Google, like nobody reads page 2 of Google.
So this is awesome.
All right. The algorithms. Yeah. I said
Covered
covered a lot about it.
Yeah. But I think that first part is really important. Steam is so good at selling games, especially indies,
Right.
that almost every other non-console platform is mostly insignificant by comparison. And I say especially indies because we don't really have a lot of resources to work with generally, and there's just not that many allies for promoting our stuff. But Steam is incredibly good at it.
Yeah.
It mostly cares about giving players the kinds of games they want to play, and that lets us lead by creating greatness. Like, that's amazing.
And I will say that obviously the alternative itch is wonderful for games that don't necessarily like fit on Steam or that are more like left field or unusual or experimental. But itch has decent discoverability, but from my experience, it's nowhere near like the power of Steam's discoverability. And there are some games that are really successful on itch that are not that successful on Steam. And I think that I have a suspicion that has less to do with itch's discoverability algorithm and just that game developers' ability to generate buzz around their game to begin with.
Does itch have something like Steam's "Hey, you might like this"?
It does, I think, but it's itch is designed to be simple in my experience, and like they do it well. And so launching on itch is simple, managing your game on itch is simple, updating it is simple, and so I've never noticed like an enormous discoverability machine operating in the background to show you as many games as possible. But yeah, Steam is personalized for every player. I didn't really even realize this until I think we watched Novadrift, how incredibly different it is depending on what you play. Sometimes it was so different that we could like see Novadrift selling like in the actual like charts. And I would ask a friend, like, "Hey, do you see Novadrift in the charts?" Like, "Nope, I don't see it. You're not doing very well." Like so, like even the charts that you would think would be like all the data would put you in. I don't know how to describe it. Even like top sellers or new and trending.
Those aren't curated.
The game. I don't think they're curated. They're not curated, but I think there's It says they're not personalized.
Well, there's so many now.
Knows?
They're always changing. It's hard to
Who knows? Should I say anything else?
I do think it's worth mentioning. Like we mentioned how Steam will drop support. Like it'll stop pouring gasoline.
Yes.
Eventually, especially if you do nothing or play.
It will. If you do nothing and nobody's interested, it will stop the gasoline.
Steam never makes a permanent decision about your game. You can get that back.
Yeah.
All you have to do is
you just have to feed it.
Just have to get it to sell units.
Right. But generally, you do have to put the initial gasoline squirt on your fire. And there might be exceptions to that. I mean, Steam does do curated featuring, but generally they're not going to have a human curated featuring unless your game is already successful. So.
We should mention wish lists at least.
Is there any part in the future about wish lists, or should I talk
we can.
about it?
So a good way to start getting the ball rolling is community building. Steam only surfaces games when it's already moving units and gathering wish lists. So it's important to get that spark of interest elsewhere. Once you have it from somewhere, you can start creating that community. It really helps to have something that starts the spark. For us, it was a Kickstarter campaign. I just wanted to raise money to pay for the audio we had to add to the game. It could be something else. It could be social media, content creator, Indiegogo. It could be an article. But whatever it is, it then becomes your job to start moving those players to one place, ideally a place you can talk to them. Discord is really good at this. Another good reason to funnel everyone into one place is because, especially if your team is small, or really small in my case, it is awful to get feedback from a lot of places. And some places are nicer than others. I don't want feedback in YouTube comments, ever. I don't want to read Steam forums is a place that feedback is expected to be given, but is usually pretty hostile. So wherever you can simply ask. I posted a sticky on the Steam forums that just says, hey, listen, the dev's super involved, but he doesn't really read this. Like, come here to Discord. The game can contain a Discord link. Your YouTube videos, TikToks can contain a Discord link. Just once everybody knows that they have a voice, but it's not just everywhere, they're usually pretty happy to transition. And then your life gets a lot easier. Those sticky notes seem like a little thing to the pens, but they have saved me untold amounts of grief to just not have to keep on those sources. Like I've gotten feature requests inside a TikTok comment chain. It's nice to just be like, hey, here's where that goes, and not have to reply, and then everyone else sees it. And then once you have that community, I very much recommend interacting with it regularly in a way that is meaningful and genuine. Don't act like a corporation. Be yourself, share stuff you love. If you've made some small thing in your game, just post it to the Discord. It could be an announcement, but it could also just be in the general chat. Start a conversation. And then I think it's also good to get in the habit of then posting that stuff on social media. It becomes so much easier once launch finally happens if you're in the habit of just sharing. For me, that was actually a really emotional, difficult thing. Like, I'm not someone who likes to be out there. But because I got to do it for so many years, I got used to it, and it eventually was no big deal. And I stopped making it personal. So communities are also a great place to practice all the things, social things that many game devs are not great at. And once you treat people like that, they will give back in really incredible ways. It genuinely surprised me what advantages being a part of a big Discord has given me. One of the things they're really great at is constant feedback. It's really hard to develop in a vacuum. If you're just working on a game alone or otherwise, and you don't have constant impressions from other players, it starts to become feel like an act of faith. I'm working real hard on this. I'm putting everything I have, but I don't know if it's good. I'm guessing. That can't go on for long. Taking care to get a playlist is also great, but Discord creates a constant running conversation. And that can get overwhelming, but I'll talk about that too. A community large enough to require governing is large enough to govern itself. If you have that problem, please ask for help. Ask the Discord for volunteers. Take applications for moderators, even a community manager. That worked out really well for me. It took a few tries to find the right person, but the amount it benefits you is incredible. And as the Discord or your community as a whole grows, you'll meet people who want to help you just for the love of it. I've personally secured incredible talent like a diligent QA team, a veteran programmer, a math consultant, and skilled technical designer, excellent moderation team, community management, and a technical writer who all began just by being a fan of the game and wanting to join in it in some way. And nowadays, those are the people I'm considering hiring for future projects. So, I don't know, it just feels good, and it's collaborative in a way that is free of all the shackles of
An enormous corporation? That's not what you meant.
I suppose a better way to say it was like this to me feels like a really natural way to recruit. That saves you a lot of the hassle of just like trying strangers out, and because I think it bypasses the first. It ensures that the people you're dealing with truly love what you're doing, and that to me is more important than like decades of experience.
All right. Making a really nice Steam page.
We actually can bring up ours if you want to talk about that.
Well, is ours really nice?
It's medium nice.
I think ours is medium nice. It works. I don't think we've updated it that much, which we probably should for final launch, for sure. But, you know, there's plenty of guides out there that do a really, plenty of people out there that do a really good job of giving you very specific advice about how to make a great looking Steam page. I will say, excuse me, that when we launched Nova Drift, I'm pretty sure that they did not allow animated GIFs. And that makes a huge difference because I think a lot of people do not even watch the trailer sometimes. I think I remember reading some like pretty data that really suggested that the average person only looks at your page for like a few seconds. They generally don't watch the trailer, which was surprising to me. They might see like the first few screenshots, but if you've got an animated GIF like at the close to the top that just like gives them a really quick
this is the game.
This is the game. Nova Drift is tough though because Nova Drift you can see that it's kind of like, you know, evolved asteroids, but there's a lot more going on that you don't really know about. So that's kind of been one of our big challenges is to let people know how deep the game is in, you know, a 5 to 10 second GIF. It's actually quite difficult. It is possible, but that's kind of been our, you know, our goal. And for the final trailer that is yet to be created, I think we really need to double down. And we've got, I don't know, like 10 or 15 trailers we've made. You know, the original Kickstarter one, the early access one for every single update, some for even like major events. So, how do I get this back full screen? Not on. Where are we? Oh.
Should we any idea how to full screen this again? The option disappeared.
No.
Well,
yeah. F11. It looks pretty good regardless.
I'll enter.
Could refresh the page.
Refreshing the page.
Oh, there you go.
All right.
Yeah, click the button.
Installation. Yeah. Content creators. In 2006 and 2007, like all that time, you know, obviously the idea of somebody who plays video games on YouTube. Well, I guess it did exist, but it was pretty rare. And then the idea that you could make a living doing it, you know, you like saw the whole evolution of it, which was pretty wild. And now I would say more so than journalists or traditional media, for better or worse, you know, you're basically begging somebody famous to talk about your game. And so I've probably spent the lion's share of my effort, my involvement in Nova Drift, painstakingly going through hundreds, if not thousands, of individual emails and writing emails and Twitter DMs and back when YouTube actually let you like send messages to people, which I don't know if they do anymore. They don't do that anymore, do they? All the like basically just mainly in 2019, 20, and 21. Such an enormous amount of time just aggregating data on the YouTubers, sending it out to them, sending it out, just spending incredible amounts of time sending it out through all channels, keeping track of who responded, keeping track of every single streamer and YouTuber that played it, regardless of how much of an audience they had, keeping track of them so we could send it out to them again when there was an update, communicating with them through Discord. We created a streamers only role on Discord where I would communicate with just them when there was a major update. And then some of the bigger streamers that were really helpful, like Wanderbots and Celerity, got really involved in the game, like around launch time. And so just developing relationships.
And nowadays, Ultra C has made,
yeah.
last time I checked, 550 videos?
Ultra C, right. Ultra C.
If somebody like Northern Lion does that, you can retire.
Right. Yeah, Northern Lion played our game once.
He didn't like it.
Great. What?
He didn't like it, that's fine.
He didn't like it?
He didn't say it. You know, he's like, I get it. And, you know, sure.
All right.
It's not for everyone. That's fine.
Yeah. Contact press. This can work for some things. I never really thought that it would work too well for Nova Drift. Social media is interesting because we never got too much traction on social media unless you know something I don't.
No, I feel like there's games that just inherently do fantastic on it.
Yeah, and I've seen games that have like viral tweets or like TikToks that get millions of views to like less than stellar Steam launches.
Yeah.
And then Nova Drift's kind of on the opposite end. Like you don't really see people talking about it on social media that much. You do see a lot of people playing it on Twitch and YouTube, and the Steam algorithm for a while really heavily favored it. And so, you know, it's easy to think, like, it's probably a good idea to remember, like, if something doesn't look like it's blowing up on social media, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not blowing up. There's all these other places that it can do really well.
Find the way in which your game is discussable.
Right. Yeah. And I think Twitter and TikTok maybe didn't really work out as well for Nova Drift because of the nature of the game and how hard it is to show its depth and value in the kind of short form, you know, posting short form videos that they allow.
I think a good way to explain it is Nova Drift looks like a game that should appeal to shmup fans or shooter fans, but what it really is the kind of game that would appeal to someone who plays Slay the Spire or dungeon crawlers.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Oh, and I should mention for content creators, that was basically where we started. Like, we created a list of games that we thought had like some sort of interesting overlap, some sort of significant overlap with Nova Drift, and look up all of the people that had played those. If anybody here has ever heard of Sully Gnome, have you seen that site? Sully Gnome is it's kind of like a Twitch analyzation site where you can basically put in any game and it will give you an exhaustive list of like anybody who's ever streamed it across like its entire history, which is incredibly useful because nothing really exists like that on Twitch. YouTube, you can say, okay, show me all the YouTubers that have played Slay the Spire. Start with the one that was the most popular and go down like 100,000 videos to the one that was the least popular. Twitch doesn't really have something like that. So Sully Gnome basically does that. It lets you like quantify the posts, like the streams on Twitch, like popularity.
So knowing what circles your game might be popular in can help you specifically target appropriate audience.
Paying for marketing. Can we talk about that?
Yeah.
Look. So, this is something that made us feel a little weird. It's the beginning because I actually remember when the idea of paying for a YouTuber to play your game was considered horribly disgusting, and that was a lot of people still feel that way, and we still kind of feel that way.
It feels a little weird.
It feels a little weird, but so I got a lot of hard data before we considered this, because I had basically worked out when Nova Drift gets played by, let's say, Northern Land, who has a particular type of audience, or Aliens Rock, I could tell that these people were like would probably be interested in Nova Drift. So when they played Nova Drift, I could see that for this, so this video got 100,000 views, and so that directly correlated to this many sales on Steam. I could see, like, to the hour, the correlation of the posting of the video. And then I added in the price of Nova Drift, and basically came up with a rough, this is how much money we make per YouTube vid from a popular YouTube video. Using that figure, I was able to determine if, so we started fielding offers from YouTubers, because the moment they find out that you're willing to pay them money, you get a lot of offers. So people that would give us offers, basically saying, I will, for X dollars, I will play your video, and my videos generally get these many views, and you can confirm that that's true. And if the amount of views that you think their video is going to get, you match it up with the value of a video view that you have determined by all the previous data, you can usually tell if it's an acceptable risk or not. And for a while, we had actually found that we could basically make $3 for every $1 we spent, which was a little weird at first to feel like we had just found like a. It was not a money printing machine, because it only lasted about a month, because there's only so much you can do it. But it was this kind of like weird little thing we figured out, and I think that was probably like one of the biggest spikes in there.
Yeah, I often ask people, how did you find out about the game when they enter the Discord? And the amount of times somebody has said, "Oh, I saw Aliens Rock," it is enormous.
Right.
And one of the reasons it feels very odd is because it's not content we ourselves would watch, so it feels very strange dropping large amounts of money on it, especially not that much to work with. But it changed the landscape of the game.
Yeah.
It was very worth doing.
And he also made way more videos for it than he was paid for, because he genuinely liked it. So he just kept playing it. So we got lucky on that one.
Yeah, I think it should be calculated. It's kind of like what we.
Yeah.
We wouldn't just spam the internet with these offers.
Yeah.
Like,
And then
it's got to be the right person.
And then I think we stopped. We haven't done one in a couple of years, and I think the last one we did was the biggest one we did, and we basically broke even.
I feel like it makes sense too, though, because it made the most sense to do it when the algorithm was hot, and right now it's dropped us.
Exactly. Yeah.
We'll fix that at launch, but right now it's
yeah. It is definitely like much less favored in the algorithm right now, so it doesn't really make sense to be paying someone to play it. But the moment we broke even, it's not a big deal overall. Like, you pay X, you get X back. I think it just kind of was a sign to us that there's a little too much risk for future possible sponsorships.
I think it makes sense to do it during our launch.
Strike while the iron's hot.
I do want to talk about the last one, but I can do that. I feel like something that a lot of us aren't great at is asking for help. And it's really not as imposing as it feels like. Yeah, especially if you're offering something when you do it. So pinging everyone in the Discord always feels strange, right? Like, I try to include it like a content sandwich. Like, I give them some interesting news. I ask for my review or my share, my repost, my wish list, whatever I want, and then I include something else I'm working on. It's just like, make it worth their time to get the ask. Like, I think if you just were silent for 3 months and like, hey, I could really use a review right now, people will give you that like ping reaction, and they get a little frustrated. So it's like a compliment sandwich. Just make it for them. And I've never had anyone mind that I ask them to review the game or that I've asked them to repost to social media. And as I said before, it's because I'm interacting with them like people. We don't mind helping each other here. My Discord feels like that. So I put a lot of work into that. One thing that made a huge difference for Novadrift was casting a really wide net. We localized really early because I was lucky enough to know somebody who was running a website that allowed you to crowdsource localization. It's just called localizer.io. Localizing early really helps multiply the effects of your work during early access. I think maybe like 30% of our sales are in the US.
Yeah,
Like that.
not really as much as you'd think, though.
Yeah, a very relevant bit of in Europe, China, Australia, and
Germany.
US, Germany. It adds up. That's really daunting. Like making a game, especially.
It's not even localized in German.
Yeah. I think it's not. I don't know anymore. But
English as a second language early on there.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
I think strategy games are generally pretty popular in Germany as well.
I know this sounds incredibly daunting because there's already such an incredible amount to think about when you're playing a game. But doing it late is a lot of debt too, like technical debt. You can even crowdsource. So this website, I'll link at the end of the presentation, will, given a large enough community, slowly translate for you. And it has a system in place to upvote and do some quality control. I found it to be good enough that I've seen our complaint maybe once.
We have found that sometimes when we're against a deadline for an update, we'll have to kind of like accelerate it somehow, or hire somebody to finish it off or edit it. But it's been great for the overall.
Yeah, paying to accelerate it feels worth it. It's still far cheaper than hiring localizers for everyone you want to support. If you do this early, the effects of early access, everything's easy, right? Because you're just accessing more of the globe. Countries that your game does not have their native language in just won't see your game. It completely depends on the percentage of English speakers. Architect text for easy translation. Please be forward thinking with this. Because in a game like Novadrift, can you imagine how many times I change a stat number? Like, it's insane. We didn't have variables early on, and every time we changed a number, we had to have that retranslated. That was unsustainable. So you can use dynamic variables to appear in the text, so that when the code is updated, the game automatically updates that bit of it. So all this to say, if I'm doing this and doing this early and doing it properly has been incredibly worth it, even though my brain was saying I don't have time for this. It would have been so much worse to do it later. China's kind of its own thing. You need help accessing that. There's a lot of Chinese publishers who kind of jump at the opportunity to bring a successful indie game in. It feels very strange because you have like no data about what they're doing.
Right.
You can't access that market. You can't see it. You probably don't know the language to interact with the fans.
You can see it, but it's if you don't understand Chinese, then it's hard to understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And whenever we'd see like a huge spike in players or sales, it was usually pretty easy to hunt it down. Like I would go to YouTube or Twitch and just search for the game and see if there's like some new play. Sometimes there was a huge spike and I had no clue, so I had to ask. We actually have a Chinese publisher for it, and I had to ask them. Like, oh yeah, on this site that you would have no idea about this person who you've never heard of that played the game, and they've got 2 million followers.
Yeah.
And okay,
That's the thing, right? The population is simply so huge; it can rival U.S. players easily.
Oh yeah, and I think even more so in more recent years than when we launched, China is kind of becoming like I think people are having like the majority of their sales there, as opposed to like second or third place to United States or English-speaking countries. Some games that are made in the States will have greater success in China than America.
And different games are preferred in different regions.
Yeah.
It really depends on your title. So this is just kind of dispelling Steam myth. There's an awful lot of mysticism and misinformation going around. Most of this is taken from a video that Valve has released, and hopefully everybody's watched it. We're going to link it at the end, and I really highly recommend it.
It's pretty recent.
They get deep about like what all the sections on Steam mean, and whether they're curated or not, and what they're
how your game is
when they matter.
surfaced.
Yeah. So what affects it? Store page traffic and traffic conversion does not directly. The effects of it may be visible, but not directly. This one surprised me because for years I was telling people like, please review our game. Like it helps us get past the initial threshold of the algorithm. It doesn't matter.
No.
Unless you have a mostly negative reviewed game, it doesn't do anything. But they're still really important.
It is important because, I mean, if it's negative, people are less likely to buy it, and if they're less likely to buy it, then the Steam algorithm will defavor it, but it's not based explicitly on the reviews.
I also feel like some of the best content creators kind of have the luxury to just play overwhelmingly positively reviewed games, like, or at least very positive. In early access, I think you find that players are really quite willing to review your game. I think it's easier to hit those thresholds. As we transitioned from a really niche audience to a global audience, the review score changed from 99 all the way down to 96. And I think that's just the effect of reaching people who are more casual and a little less invested and are more likely to throw a negative review at you. So
96 is still
I'm not complaining, but I am saying expect that as your game gains exposure to see that trending down, and that's normal and fine. But take advantage of the early time where your players are on your side and are willing to review for you and get you up there so you can start getting that really good streamer visibility. Indirect visibility. Early access doesn't affect the algorithm, except that you're exempted by being on the released list. You can be, I skipped wish list. They don't affect it, except for when you're about to launch on the popular upcoming, which is a really important list. So big, asterisk there. So wish list, always important, ask everyone.
I think ultimately what affects it is how well is it selling.
That's it. How many units is it selling right now? That's the big thing.
Yeah.
And localization is important for the reasons we just discussed.
Who's doing this?
I put Katie's up here because it shows you a few things. One, we're seeing it in my personal queue. Steam knows I'll like this game. It knows it's hot right now. So Steam, Hades had a really good chance of appearing in my personalized, like, hey, you might like this discovery queue. And
talked a lot of, I think,
here, I want to talk about that.
Talk about what?
Is this game relative to you, similar to games you've played? So this is where everyone was seeing. Vampire Survivors was likely to see no good for us.
Yeah.
And tags, I think, when you get there.
Yeah, tags are really important.
You can ask your community to add these, to vote for these.
We were told 2019 and 2020, I think, the more people that tag your game, it actually helps it get discovered more when people filter things by tags. I don't know if that's actually true. I do know that the tags that you as the developer apply to your game have the most weight. I have heard rumors that the more people you can get to tag your game, the more it will be favored, once again, when players are filtering games by tags. But I don't have hard data on that. Definitely talk about the relevant games. That was super important for us. If you've got, promotional events lined up it's always really important to be flexible in when you're going to do them because, once again, it's really important to strike, when Steam thinks your game is hot. So that's what we did basically during the whole Vampire Survivors thing. Like when that blew up, I went and not only were we appearing on the if you like Vampire Survivors, you might like Nova Drift list. There was also a whole new set of content creators that were playing specifically Vampire Survivors and Survivors clones that we had never noticed playing Nova Drift or Slay the Spire or Path of Exile or Hades or any of the games that we were targeting before. So, that was basically like kind of like a movement almost, like the Survivor clones of 22 or so.
Yeah.
When it was actually a great opportunity for me personally to kind of like get the machinery going on the content creator reach out because I was kind of stalling then. I didn't really know. I felt like I contacted everybody that I needed to until there were all these new content. Some of the content creators got popular just because of Vampire Survivors. Like they had basically launched a career just on streaming, games like that. So it created a lot of opportunities for everybody, for content creators, for people that like to make horde survival games, and for us.
We're running pretty long, so we should go through this quick.
Okay. What time is it?
9:45.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. How many more slides do we have?
That's not bad.
Okay.
Too much to talk about.
Be on sale as much as Steam will let you.
This is controversial.
It is controversial.
That's been our discovery.
It's almost philosophical. I personally put No Drift on sale as much as Steam will let us. And recently I've been discounting it for 2 weeks instead of 1, mainly because week-long deals were fixed 7 days, and they used to get a lot of visibility, but over the years, week-long deals have been pushed down. And like it used to be like on the front page of Steam. Here are the week-long deals on Monday. Every Monday you get the week-long deals, and you have a lot of visibility. They don't even show that on the front page of Steam anymore. I was getting frustrated with how low visibility it was, so it was like, I'm just going to run 2-week deals every time I can.
You can be on sale.
And then people just are like 10 to 20 times more likely to buy your game, even when it's just a little bit on sale. Mainly because Steam favors games that are on sale. They've got these, as you know, enormous sections dedicated to games that are on sale. People just like discounts.
So I suppose it's very worth considering when you're pricing your game.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Consider
Now-
the price you're likely to be selling at,
Yeah.
not just the one you're basing it on.
And we were pretty conservative, though, with how much we discounted the game every time we discounted it. It's been discounted dozens and dozens and dozens of times, but we've never gone above a particular. We've never gone into a super deep discount, and we probably won't for a very long time.
Yeah. Like to creep it lower and lower, and then we'll
Yeah.
set at launch and kind of start over.
Yeah. There's a lot I could say on that, but I think we're running out of time. Oh, creep sale percentages was good. There you go. And if you do get a daily deal, which is now being handled in a different way than it used to be. It used to be you had to ask, and who do you ask? That has to do with like Steam contacts. Now they're trying to be more democratic with it, or I don't know. Like if your game is already performing well enough, you are supposed to get like an automatic notification that you qualify for a daily deal. So they're trying to make Steam contacts less and less necessary because there's just so many people releasing games that they don't have enough human beings to like have a contact for all the developers.
Yeah, nowadays it seems like people are just either grandfathered into them or they're incredibly hard to get.
Yeah.
A publisher who already has that contact.
Exactly.
Doesn't feel fair. Recommend having a demo, recommend bundling with people.
Micro publishers, yes. PixelJam qualifies this. There's probably a lot of them out there. Two Left Thumbs is another micro publisher. And I did ask him yesterday if he knew any others, and he said Big Mode.
Big Mode is a micro.
He's
Donkey.
did everybody here know Donkey, the YouTuber? He created his own publishing thing called Big Mode. They have one hit game that just came out, Animal Well, a couple of weeks ago. Micro publishers are generally publishers that are usually run by one or two people that don't necessarily have like huge funds to invest in your game, but we had like a different relationship because we had worked together in the past, but PixelJam actually did micro publishing for a few other games that were just purely. PixelJam didn't have money to invest in the game, but I dedicated a certain amount of like my personal time to doing all the things I did for Novadrift for these other games as well. Novadrift's obviously been like the biggest success that PixelJam has had doing micro publishing. But I like to bring it up because most of the time I speak with people doing what I do, they really don't seem to like the idea very much. And I sort of get the impression that people weren't aware that something existed between these enormous publishers and going alone. Because I feel like if there's one thing this presentation should show, it's like marketing a game is building a garden over a really long time. It's too much to do alone. You need help doing that. Every time I'm doing the stuff else is doing, that would be me not developing the game. So I highly recommend it. There's people who can just be more like small advocates and cheerleaders than a big megacorp with hyper marketing power. And enormous recoups.
And enormous recoups. Yeah, that's the important part.
Hey, look, that's the
Yeah. Remember, Steam never makes any permanent decisions about your game. You can always fix it. Here's some resources of stuff we found really useful. This is the video I was talking about. I recommend writing that down. Chris Zukowski's Discord, which you can get to from here.
Incredibly useful.
Oh my gosh. He will ping you every time there's a contest you could be entering in, anytime there's influencer posting.
Influencer posting that they're looking, a large-scale influencer looking to discover new games. I would mention Simon Carlos's Game Discoverability newsletter.
Simon, what is it?
C-A-R-L-E-S.
Simon Carlos.
He has a weekly newsletter that is incredibly valuable for anybody looking to market their games.
All right. Jeffrey Miles, thank you for sharing your wisdom with us. So we are running a bit late, but like maybe 3 or 4 questions from the audience? Okay, and then you can ask later if you want to. 3 or 4 questions.
So how would you determine for demo versus early access versus full release, like how much of the game to include?
I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet for ours. I feel like...
Can I, if I bring up the page here, can I bring up
Escape? You can probably access the browser. For Novadrift, I would say I would want them to get a taste of the progression, and end it at a point where they kind of are wanting more. But that's so nebulous. I would probably start a community poll, honestly. Like, I'm leaning on my Discord pretty hard lately. Like, what's the right amount of Novadrift to get a sense for the experience but one?
So I'm going to do a quick plug for a game that PixelJam developed and is publishing, Utopia Must Fall, that has to do with the demo. We are actually offering the demo. The demo right now that we just launched a couple days ago is the entirety of what we've worked on for the game. Nobody really knows that. The demo is basically our entire game, and we're just going to continue to expand it. So this might be unconventional, but we basically have a current build of the game that we just sent out everywhere as a demo. It's been working really well so far. Because we have the intention to release it on early access in a couple months, and we know the game is very small. It's a very small scope game. It's very easy to add content to very quickly. So we know in the next few months we can go from where we are in the demo and keep the demo as the current build and have an early access build that's significantly larger than the demo, and then keep updating it until we have the full release. I don't know if that actually answers your question, but it just kind of reminded me of like how you can use a demo. We're basically releasing the game for free, in a way, in its current state. but people don't really know that. But I would say demos are great for marketing, and Steam Next Fest, as if you ever go on Steam, that is a great time to have a demo for your game because there's lots of content creators specifically just streaming and YouTubing themselves, playing all these demos. You'll generally, even if you don't get a lot of visibility, you'll get more wish lists than you would normally. And it's a really good idea to do one like right before, close to your launch, so the wish lists are fresh, as they say.
You should scroll down and show the awesome gift down there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So we're basically emulating the look of the old Vectrex vector scan monitors, like Asteroids and Tempest.
Yeah, so one thing I noticed is some games have like a prologue for their game, which is a separate product compared to a demo.
Yeah.
Do you know why they do that? Because it seems like
oh, geez, that's a really good question, and we never did that. And there was a reason that it got really popular a couple years ago, and I think that somebody figured out how to game Steam's visibility algorithm, so that you're right, because it's not a demo.
Yeah.
So there was extra visibility to a free game rather than a demo, because it was its own Steam ID. And so the free games generally get a lot of visibility as opposed. There's a demo section on Steam. There's a free game section on Steam. People go to the free game section way more than they go to the demo section. So they're basically taking their demos, presenting them as separate applications, and then cross-promoting the full version.
Would you recommend that right now? Or?
That's a good question. I've never done it, so I don't really know. It doesn't sound like a bad idea, but
yeah, it's kind of a combined thing. But when you from early access to launch, once you officially click launch, does Steam actually boost you when you're click the launch?
Yes,
that's early access.
It does. That is the only time that you can appear on the new and trending list. There will never be an early access game in new and trending. You have to go to the early access section, and then you'll see the new and trending early access.
Okay.
But you do get a built-in visibility boost the moment you press that launch button and leave early access. That's what you were asking, right?
Yeah. And to combine this, does the wish list affect the launch algorithm?
That's a good question. I don't know if the wish list explicitly affects the visibility algorithm, but what it does do is it sends an email to every single person that has the game wish list, and not only says it's discounted, it says it's finally released, and so they're likely to go buy it, which then does boost your visibility.
Final question.
Primarily, what they do is you get in the up and coming list, which is super important.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And also, when you release, you get the toaster, the thing that you click through to see the games that just came out. Depending on how hot Steam thinks you are, people are more likely to see that.
Okay, final question.
Oh, here.
So, I've seen some talks about people who develop games over a long time deciding to, instead of rather working on one game and putting all your marbles in one bag, basically, developing multiple games, kind of building up revenue that way. So, not one game has to be a super successful game, but you can have 10 past 10 years you made that you can kind of this growing tail. So why did you guys decide to keep working on Overdrift, or how did you make that decision to keep working after was the first year looked like, or something where the sales weren't super great after the first launch? Why did you decide to keep pushing?
Well, I suppose two reasons. One, unintuitively, I find most will agree making small games is actually incredibly harder than making big games. Kind of in the way that there's a famous, I think it's Mark Twain quote. This is I didn't have time to write you a short letter, so I wrote you a long one. It's exactly that. This is a skill you can practice. There are countless game jams, and every time you can say, "I'm going to make a small game now," and it will not be small. The second reason was, by that point, even though it was relatively not that much, it was still better than I ever thought I was going to do in indie game jams, and I love working on it, so just kept going.
I will mention that PixelJam takes the approach of lots of small games.
Yeah, totally.
So that's basically more our strategy rather than Jeff's.
I can't do it. I'm trying.
I said it earlier, but we are so fortunate to have you two in our community team. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, that's a wrap for the night. Does anyone have any final community announcements before we head out? Yes.
I just figured I'd mention this. There's a Discord server for indie game developers just called Indie Games that I've been a mod on for a bit of time. I just figured I'd plug it in kind of a good space.
Share it in our Discord server. Okay.
All right, we'll do.
All right, everyone, we're probably going to stick around here still, some of us, for about 15 more minutes. Then we will walk down to Frida Petito's if you'd like to join us. Otherwise, please have a safe travels home, safe driving, safe walking, and we will see you next time. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
I just want to say, first off,